Chapter 505. Ouch. Xiao Chen was not prepared. He screamed in pain, "How could you be so cruel, huh?" Jean Bebe looked at Xiao Chen's shoes in a daze. Then, she looked at Xiao Chen's face and reached out to touch it. "Hey, what are you doing?" Xiao Chen was shocked. He thought that Jean Bebe was going to scratch him. To his surprise, Jean Bebe just touched his face and then let go. She turned around and left without saying anything, which puzzled Xiao Chen. After Jean Bebe left, Qing Menjing asked, "What were you doing just now? Why did you touch Yang Tan?" "Nothing. I just asked him when he would cancel the arrest warrant for my cousin-in-law," said Jean Bebe. "And?" asked Qing Menjing in a hurry. "Huh? Cousin Menjing, are you worried about him?" asked Jean Bebe with a smile. "Who's worried about him? I just feel that he is a bit unlucky." "Yang Tan is not dead, and he is still wanted," said Qing Menjing. "Forget it. Maybe Yang Tan is really dead, right? It's fine as long as my cousin-in-law is fine." Jean Bebe said, "Don't worry. I told you that my cousin-in-law is a transformer. He might have already transformed into someone else. It's impossible to catch him." "Oh." Qing Menjing did not understand what Jean Bebe said. However, it was the greatest comfort that Xiao Chen was fine now. After Jean Bebe left, Xiao Chen was deep in thought. Earlier, when he pretended to be a white fox, Jean Bebe seemed to have already noticed the loophole. Judging from Jean Bebe's behavior just now, she seemed to have noticed something again. Xiao Chen had been careful enough to change his clothes to Yang Tan's. The only thing he could not change was his shoes. Yang Tan's shoes were too small for him to wear. It was different from clothes. Clothes could be worn through clothes because they were about the same height. However, shoes were too small. It was not like he could cut off a piece of his foot before wearing it, right? He recalled that Jean Bebe had glanced at his shoes just now. Could it be that she had noticed something from his shoes? Thinking about it, it wasn't impossible. This chick's observation skills were very meticulous. Maybe she really saw something. However, Xiao Chen was not worried that Jean Bebe had seen through him. At least, judging from Jean Bebe's previous reaction, she did not say anything. Therefore, Xiao Chen was not worried that she would talk nonsense. Why was Jean Bebe acting so weird just now? Song Huawu asked. "She seems to have noticed something wrong," Xiao Chen said. "She is more observant." Song Huawu nodded and did not say anything else. Jing Xiaokuan also heard something. He turned around and saw Yang Tan sitting beside Song Huawu. He wanted to say something several times but stopped. He wanted to ask about Xiao Chen's situation. It did not occur to him that Xiao Chen was actually White Fox. It shocked him very much. At the same time, he was surprised by Tang Tang's insight. Xiao Chen was not a useless child, but a strong child. Jing Xiaokuan had always regarded him as a good-for-nothing. It turned out that he was his boss, White Fox. As for Lu Zhenming, he turned to White Fox. Although his original purpose was not pure, he was scared when he heard that White Fox was Xiao Chen. Gosh, why didn't I get killed before? Is this White Fox so awesome? But isn't Yang Tan dead? Why does he appear again? Lu Zhenming was a little confused. Skinny Monkey said, "Master Ming, this Yang Tan is so awesome. How did he come back to life?" "I don't know." "Don't act rashly. Even boss Xiao Chen is no match for him. Let's not add to the trouble. Just monitor him secretly and see what he is going to do." Lu Zhenming said. "Okay." Skinny Monkey nodded repeatedly. He also knew that this was not something he could participate in. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Xiao Chen still went to school every day, but he was using Yang Tan's identity. He could not talk to Qing Menjing, Jean Bebe, Jing Xiaokuan, and Lu Zhenming. He could not even contact the Xiao family. He could only take it one step at a time. At the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, Xia Zhili's arrest warrant had not been cancelled. It was said that the people from the extreme ice sect had also gone to see Xia Zhili. Although he did not know what they talked about, judging from the fact that the arrest warrant had not been cancelled, the extreme ice sect was probably up to no good. As for Xiao Chen, he had gradually adapted to his identity as Yang Tan. As usual, he took Song Huawu's car and returned to home. Once Song Huawu got home, she slumped on the sofa lazily. "Hey, Yang Tan, go and cook for me. Didn't we agree to have one day each? It's your turn today," Xiao Chen said. "I'm tired today." "It's still you," Song Huawu said lazily. "If you don't go, I will tell Xia Zhili that you are Xiao Chen." "Okay." Xiao Chen shook his head. Anyway, he was doing this all day in the Missy's villa. Now that Song Huawu could help him hide it, it was already a great help to him. Xiao Chen would not care about these small details. However, when Xiao Chen was cooking, he found that Song Huawu was not resting. Instead, she took the tablet and was studying something with someone. After a while, the food was served on the table. Song Huawu put down the tablet and sniffed. "Yang Tan, you really have the potential to be a family man. No wonder Qing Menjing asked you to be a servant." "That's my fiancé. What are you to me?" Xiao Chen was a little depressed. "Didn't Xia Zhili ask me to be your fiancé?" Song Huawu said confidently. "Have you forgotten? Your identity is Yang Tan now. You should please me. I am now living with you reluctantly. Whether we can go further depends on your performance." "Pfft. That's Yang Tan, okay." Xiao Chen laughed dryly. "In order to act more like it, you should imitate Yang Tan in all aspects," Song Huawu said seriously. "Well, I give up." Xiao Chen was speechless. "Right, there is news about the ancient ruins. This time, there may be several groups of people eyeing the ancient ruins. At that time, we will represent the Supernatural Investigation Bureau to get a share of the loot," said Song Huawu. "You can go, but I still have to represent Xiao Chen." Xiao Chen said, "You and Xia Shibin can go." "Oh, that's fine too. Then I will tell Xia Zhili that you will stay in Songming. I will go with Xia Shibin." Song Huawu thought about it and said, "At that time, we will report that Xiao Chen appeared in the ancient tomb. No need. I will transform into another appearance, and I won't be called Xiao Chen." Xiao Chen waved his hand. He didn't want his whereabouts to be exposed. He could transform into Yang Tan, so naturally, he could transform into other people. At that time, he just needed to change it a little. "That's fine too." Song Huawu nodded. "Are you going with one of the groups? Isn't it just a group of people? Why are there several groups of people?" Xiao Chen asked curiously. "According to the information I have, this ancient ruin has been targeted by several groups of people. I don't know who spread the news, but think about it. If I can find out about it, then the others naturally have the corresponding channels," Song Huawu said. "I see." Xiao Chen thought about it and used the Warrior Guild's client to contact Shen Hongjian and Clayton online. "When are you going to the ancient ruins? I heard that we're not the only ones going." "Soon," Clayton's message came back. "You're okay? That's great. There's a condition for the ancient ruins to open. It must be on a moonless night. According to the observation of the stars, it should be on the 15th of this month. I originally wanted to inform you before, but you can also prepare now. As for the people going, it's just us." "Is there anyone else?" "Yes, as far as I know, people from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau will also go, and there will be others," replied Xiao Chen. "What? People from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau are going too? There are others?" "Oh no, it seems that the news has been leaked. However, if the people from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau are going, do you still dare to go?" asked Clayton. "I will pretend to be someone else. You'll know when we meet." Xiao Chen said, "Don't worry about me. You should worry about the others." Okay, I'll ask around, said Clayton. Back mountain of Immortal Resort. This was a perilous peak that had not been developed. Other than a dangerous road that led halfway up the mountain, there were strange rocks and dense forests everywhere. At night, the shadows of the trees were very eerie. Today was the 15th of this month, the moonless night. Xiao Chen was the first to arrive, while Song Huawu and Xia Shibin would be the last to appear. The people from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau were always the main characters no matter where they were. They naturally had to wait for the other groups to appear before appearing, but Xiao Chen wanted to meet up with Clayton first. Until now, Clayton had not figured out if there were others coming. His information channels were also limited. However, thinking about it, even Song Huawu did not know the specifics and had only heard about it. It was reasonable that Clayton did not know. As Xiao Chen had been here once, he was familiar with the route this time. Soon, he reached the top of the mountain. At the top of the mountain, Xiao Chen saw Clayton. At this moment, Xiao Chen had already changed his appearance. He no longer looked like Xiao Chen from before, nor did he look like Yang Tan. Instead, he looked like an ordinary young master with no special characteristics. The reason for this was that Xiao Chen did not want others to remember his appearance. He wanted to keep a low profile. Who is it? There was already a man and a woman standing beside Clayton. Seeing Xiao Chen's sudden arrival, the man beside Clayton shouted first. Clayton looked at Xiao Chen and was also stunned. Then, he revealed his half-step martial master strength, ready to fight at any time. Clayton, how have you been since we last met in Lon City? Xiao Chen laughed. Although his voice had changed, he believed that Clayton would know who he was. Indeed, Clayton was only slightly stunned. Then, he also laughed. So it's young hero Xiao. The night was too dark, so I couldn't see clearly. Chapter 506. Young hero Xiao. Xiao Chen was a little depressed. Didn't I tell you not to use Xiao Chen's identity? You're still young hero Xiao, you're really. Clayton was a little embarrassed when he called out young hero Xiao. He had just said it casually, but he suddenly remembered that Xiao Chen was wanted and had to change his identity. However, since he had already said it, there was no way he could take it back. Xiao Chen looked at him and knew that he didn't mean it, so he didn't say anything more. He quickly walked in front of the three people, cupped his fists, and said, "Greetings, everyone. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm another friend of Clayton's. My name is Xiao Chang." Xiao Chen gave himself a name. Since his surname was Xiao and couldn't be changed, he didn't change it. Chang was Xiao Chen's mother's surname. It was a very rare ancient surname. When he was young, Xiao Chen only heard that his mother wasn't an ordinary woman, but he didn't know what was so special about her. He only knew that his mother's surname was Chang. According to legend, the Chang family was the descendant of the ancient Yan Emperor or the Yellow Emperor. It was very rare to find such a family. Xiao Chen always felt that his mother was definitely not a simple person, but he didn't know where she went. "Oh, so it's young hero Xiao Chang. Nice to meet you." The man said, "Nice to meet you," but his eyes didn't look happy at all. It was obvious that he didn't think much of Xiao Chen. Next to him was a woman in her 40s. She looked at Xiao Chen and nodded. "Since everyone is here, Clayton, can we set off? There's no rush. Let me introduce you guys first." Clayton knew that he had to introduce Xiao Chen's strength so that these two would behave themselves. Otherwise, they would definitely look down on Xiao Chen. "All right." The man nodded. "This is young hero Xiao Chang. He is a demonic cultivator at the peak of stage 10 inner force. His strength is similar to mine," Clayton said slowly. Originally, the man was a little dissatisfied with the introduction of Xiao Chen first. However, after hearing Clayton describe Xiao Chen's strength, he immediately shut up. However, he didn't quite believe it. Looking at Xiao Chen's appearance, how could a young man have such a powerful cultivation? As for the woman, her eyes lit up when she saw Xiao Chen. She cupped her fists and said, Chen Xinyang greets young hero Xiao Chang. Hehe, these two are Ma Mingquang and Chen Xinyang. Hero Ma is a stage 9 inner force martial artist, and Chen Xinyang is a stage 8 inner force martial artist. However, Chen Xinyang is an expert in the 5 elements, 8 trigrams, Qimen Duanjia, and is very good at breaking mechanisms. Clayden introduced. Greetings, Brother Ma, Sister Chen. Xiao Chen cupped his fists and said. Alright, let's go to the entrance of the ancient ruins and prepare to activate the mechanism. Clayden said. Xiao Chen and the other two nodded and followed Clayden into the depths of the mountain. The path in the forest was very difficult to walk, and it was very easy to get lost. Clayden led the way in front, and it was obvious that he had been here many times. Finally, they arrived near a mountain rock. However, there was nothing strange about this place. Just as everyone was wondering what was going on, Clayden stepped forward and used his hand to sweep the surface of the rock a few times. He removed all the tree vines on it, and then revealed a faintly discernible stone door. It turned out that this stone door was hidden behind the tree vines. If one did not deliberately look for it, even if someone passed by this place, they would not be able to find it, let alone using a satellite map. Because the cave was vertical and hidden, it was no wonder that no one had discovered it for so long. It's here. Everyone, get ready. Once the time is up, we will attack this stone door with all our might, according to what I said, to open it. Clayden said. Attack the stone door? I can break this stupid stone door by myself. Why do we need to wait for the moonless hour? Ma Mingquang said arrogantly as he looked at the stone door. If you can do it, then do it. What's the point of all this nonsense? Xiao Chen was a little displeased with this person. He had no ability, but his words and actions were very forceful. He did not know what Clayden was thinking by bringing him here. Ma Mingquang was also displeased with Xiao Chen, so when he heard Xiao Chen's words, he immediately said, F***ck, if I open it, then everything inside will belong to me, right? I can't guarantee anything for others, but I'll give my share to you. Xiao Chen said coldly. Hehe, all right. After hearing this, Ma Mingquang saw that Clayden did not interrupt, so he immediately used the mantra and unleashed the full power of the 9th level of his inner force. He struck the stone door with a breaking monument palm. He was an expert in palm techniques, and his attack power was very high. This strike could even break a city gate, let alone a stone door. Boom! An earth-shattering sound rang out, and Ma Yuquang was sent flying. He landed heavily on the ground nearby and spat out a mouthful of blood. After a while, he crawled up and cursed, Motherf***, there's something strange about this stone door, it can rebound. Stupid bird. Xiao Chen glanced at him. If it could be broken so easily, then Clayden would have done it himself. Why would he need to gather people? He was simply brainless. This stone door, don't be fooled by its ordinary appearance. In fact, it contains a very mysterious formation. It should have been set up by an ancient powerhouse. We don't know anything about formations, so we can only break it by force. However, to do so, we must find the moment when the formation is at its weakest. This formation relies on the essence of the sun and the moon to replenish its energy. It is rare when there is no sun, but it can be found when there is no moon. Therefore, we must break it when it is at its weakest. Clayden finally opened his mouth to speak. Clearly, he did not like the Mahaor, so he purposely played a prank on him. But if you randomly hit it, you will be rebounded by the formation and end up like this. F***ck, so that's how it is. Ma Mingquang was a little exasperated, but there was nothing he could do. He had lost a lot of face, so he stood aside gloomily. This stupid formation is really annoying. Ha ha ha, there is indeed a secret behind it. It seems that we were right to wait. Just as the four of them were thinking about the formation, a laugh rang out. Xiao Chen looked up and saw 3 people galloping toward them. There were 2 men and 1 woman. One of the men was old, while the other was young. They looked similar and did not hide their strength. The older one was a level 1 martial master, while the younger one was a level 8 inner force expert. As for the female cultivator, she was a middle-aged woman. She had taken good care of herself and was a level 10 inner force expert. If Xiao Chen's guess was right, these 3 people should be a family of 3. Fellow martial artists, are you also here for the ancient ruins? Clayton's expression was a little ugly. He did not expect the opponent's strength to be so strong. They were already at the level of a martial master, while he was only a half-step martial master. If they really fought, he and Xiao Chen could barely suppress them. However, the woman was a stage 10 inner force user. Ma Mingguang and Chen Xinyang were no match for them. That's right. When we enter the ancient ruins, how about we split the treasures 20-80? The man looked at Xiao Chen and said. You get 20 and we get 80? Ma Mingguang was a little annoyed. He obviously knew what the man was really thinking. He only said it to express his anger. You're courting death. The man casually pulled out the sword from his waist and slashed at Ma Mingguang. Clay Den could not stop him in time, and Ma Mingguang's arm was cut off. Fresh blood gushed out, and Ma Mingguang screamed in pain. He looked at the man in shock. You actually attacked. So what if I did? You lowly ant, if you don't even want 20%, then scram. The man said domineeringly. The inner force on his body became even stronger, and it was released in an overbearing manner. You. Ma Mingguang did not expect that the man would pull out his sword just because they were discussing something. His expression changed again and again. He knew that he would not be able to get away with this man. He looked at Clay Den, hoping that Clay Den would stand up for him. Clay Den, this man stole our rice bowl, and he even cut me, so what? Do you want to follow in his footsteps? The man snorted impatiently. Who else wants to stand up for him? Come out now. I can save my time by sheathing my sword. Seeing that Clay Den did not respond, Ma Mingguang gritted his teeth. He could only pick up the severed arm from the ground and quickly left. He needed to find a place to reattach the arm. No matter how good the treasures in the ancient ruins were, without an arm, his strength would fall greatly. Seeing Ma Mingguang leave without a word, the man was even more pleased. He looked at Xiao Chen and the others proudly. Now, let's continue our discussion. 280. Do you have any objections? I don't care how we split it. I just want all the spirit jades in the ancient tomb. Seeing that Clay Den was hesitating, Xiao Chen spoke up. He was not interested in anything else. He only wanted the spirit jades. As for Clay Den, he did not fight for it. If he did not get anything, it was because he was useless. It had nothing to do with Xiao Chen. You're quite arrogant, aren't you? If it's all spirit jades in there, you want them all? The man looked at Xiao Chen mockingly. You're too noisy. Xiao Chen threw out a large fireball. The target was the man. You. The man was shocked and hurriedly dodged. However, because he was too close, the fireball still hit his left arm. The sleeve on his left arm was instantly burned away. Even his arm was charred black. This turn of events stunned everyone present. Even Clay Den, who had fought with Xiao Chen before, looked at Xiao Chen in confusion. He did not know when Xiao Chen had learned such a domineering technique. Furthermore, Xiao Chen's current strength, the man screamed in pain and took 2 steps back. His eyes were filled with shock. You are also a first-stage martial master devil master. Xiao Chen said, I only want the spirit jades. Is there a problem? All right. That man was clearly a person who bullied the weak and feared the strong. Seeing that Xiao Chen's strength was similar to his, and that the martial technique he executed was also rather tyrannical, and that Xiao Chen's overall combat prowess seemed to be slightly stronger than his, he immediately gave in. Chapter 507. The woman quickly took out some ointment from her bag and wiped it on the man's arm. Only then did the man finally heave a sigh of relief. His arm was saved. I'll take 80% of the rest and you take 20%. As for the spirit jades, they all belong to this young hero. What do you think? The man looked at Clayden again and said. Humph. I might have been afraid of you before, but you can't use your arm now. Why should I be afraid of you? Clayden revealed his half-step martial master strength. Why should we take 20%? You. The man was a little annoyed. He shouldn't have provoked Xiao Chen just now. He should have just agreed to give him the spirit jades. Now, Clayden was a half-step martial master. It would have been easy for him to deal with him in the past, but now he had to force himself to do so. Hee, you guys agreed on the division so quickly. Are you looking down on the Supernatural Investigation Bureau? Song Huawu's voice rang out nearby. Xia Shibin followed behind her. Song Huawu sighed when she saw Xiao Chen's large fireball technique with her own eyes. Yang Tan's death was not unjust. What? The man frowned. He didn't expect the people from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau to join in the fun. He could be a little overbearing to others, but he couldn't be overbearing to the people from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. The Supernatural Investigation Bureau was very powerful. Not only were there many experts, but they also had the responsibility of supervising warriors and martial masters. Therefore, the man glanced at Song Huawu. Although he knew that Song Huawu was weaker than him, he didn't dare to act rashly. Are the two of you from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau? This is my ID. Song Huawu showed her ID and handed it to the man. Shen Hongjian recognized Song Huawu. He had seen her from afar at the Shen family, so he didn't doubt her identity. The man looked at Song Huawu's ID and fell silent. It seemed that those who came to the ancient ruins to get a share of the loot were not easy to deal with. I'm Mo Xiangyin. This is my wife, Ma Xiaoying. This is my son, Mo Zhiqiu. The man introduced himself. We're from the Mo family of Zhenwu. So it's the Mo family. Song Huawu nodded and turned to look at Xiao Chen and the others. I am Clayden, a member of the Zhen Wushan family. This is Chen Xinyang, a person who is proficient in the 5 elements and 8 trigrams. This is my friend Xiao Chang, a level 1 devil master. Clayden introduced himself. There are so many people here. Looks like I'm not too late. Another voice rang out from afar. It was 2 figures rushing over. Both of them were women. However, when Xiao Chen saw them, he was shocked. These 2 people were actually the people who had come to Little Hong's pharmacy to seek treatment. Back then, when Xiao Chen had treated the old man, the young girl had promised Xiao Chen that she would send spiritual jades to Xiao Chen. However, after such a long time, there had been no news of her. Xiao Chen had thought that they had been delayed by something. He did not expect them to appear here. Moreover, they had come to the ancient ruins to search for treasures. This place was not far from Songming City, yet these 2 people did not go to Songming City to deliver spiritual jades to him. Their words were like farts. Xiao Chen was a little disdainful. However, it was not good to expose his identity at the moment, so he could only pretend that he did not know them. Level 3 Martial Master? Xiao Chen and the others were completely stunned by the strength that the young lady revealed. Clayden and Mo Xiangyin both widened their eyes. Although the old man didn't reveal his strength, the young lady beside him was a 3rd-layer martial master. What kind of strength did the old lady have? Master, there are so many people here. The young girl looked at the old woman beside her and asked hesitantly. So what if there are many people? The old woman did not care at all. She looked at the crowd and said, in a while, the 2 of us, master and disciple, will enter the ancient ruins. We don't want anything else, but all the spiritual jades here belong to us. How about it? Mo Xiangyin and Clayden looked at each other in dismay. Song Huawu and Xia Shibin were also a little puzzled. Previously, they had already informed Xiao Chen that they would do their best to help Xiao Chen obtain spiritual jades. However, this pair of master and disciple wanted to occupy the spiritual jades in the ancient ruins. Wasn't this too dramatic? I don't know where the 2 of you came from, but before you came, we had already reached an agreement here. It's not good for you to come and interfere, right? Song Hwawu said. People from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau? Seeing that Song Hwawu had not put away the document in her hand, the old woman glanced at her and said indifferently, the Supernatural Investigation Bureau does not need things like spiritual jades. Don't be a busybody. But, this young hero has already said that he only wants spiritual jades. We have also agreed. Song Hwawu pointed at Xiao Chen and said. If it were any other time, I would not care about the items in the ancient ruins. However, this old woman's disciple has promised someone to give spiritual jades to that person. Therefore, this old woman has come here. This old woman does not wish to fight with weak people like you. However, if you insist on making this old woman's trip be in vain, this old woman has no choice but to take action. The old woman said indifferently. Xiao Chen was stunned when he heard the old woman's words. Her disciple has promised to give spiritual jades to someone? That person. Isn't that me? It seems that this person did not keep his promise. Perhaps, due to some reason, he did not manage to obtain spiritual jades. Moreover, they had not forgotten to help him obtain spiritual jades during this period. When they heard that there were ancient ruins here, they had come. Alright, then I want something else. I will give the spiritual jades to this senior. In any case, it would be his sooner or later, so Xiao Chen did not feel conflicted. If there were a lot of spiritual jades in the ancient ruins, he would be envied and hated if he took them out. However, who would dare say no if these two took them? You are very sensible. Young man, I will guarantee that I will help you get whatever you like later. Consider it your compensation. The old woman was obviously not an unreasonable person. Although she was overbearing, she was still reasonable. Alright, thank you, senior, Xiao Chen said hurriedly. Just call me Grandma Nanshan. The old woman nodded. This is my disciple, Ling Er. Greetings, Grandma Nanshan, greetings, Sister Ling Er. Xiao Chen cupped his fists and said, I am Xiao Chang, a loose cultivator. Who is your sister? Ling Er glared at Xiao Chen. Although her face was not very good looking, her pair of eyes were filled with incomparable spirit. Xiao Chen knew that she was wearing a mask, but he did not know the exact reason. Judging from her big eyes, she should be a beauty, but it was hard to say, ha ha. Xiao Chen did not say anything. Ling did not say anything because Xiao Chen had taken the initiative to give in. She just stood quietly beside Grandma Nanshan. Not long after, two sharp laughs were heard in the air. So many people, but it's not too late. Everyone looked up and saw two men, one old and one young. Xiao Chen also recognized them. They were Qiao En's and the Qing family's elder, Qing Tianqiu. How did they end up mingling together? Xiao Chen was a little puzzled. Qiao En's and Qing Tianqiu were here. Could it be that Qing Tianqiu had already accepted Qiao En's? However, when Xiao En saw Song Hwawu and Xia Shibin, his expression changed slightly. He had not expected people from the Supernatural Investigation Department to be here. Originally, he had thought that he would be able to get a share of the loot as long as he revealed his status as a deacon of the Warrior Guild's Law Enforcement Hall. However, he had no choice but to compromise now. When he arrived, he did not care about the others. Instead, he directly said to Song Hwawu, So, Deputy Team Leader Song is here too. It just so happens that we are all in the same system. How about we take the biggest share of the loot from the ancient ruins? I am here on behalf of the Warrior Guild. In his opinion, the others were all loose cultivators. As long as he used the Warrior Guild's name, they would obediently give in. Clayton was a little depressed. He had not expected these people to be so powerful. The Mo family of Zhenwu was already unbearable. Behind them, there was also Song Hwawu from the Supernatural Investigation Department, and even the two mysterious master and disciple masters. Now, there were people from the Warrior Guild. He really could not imagine what he would be left with in the end. He could still pretend to be arrogant in front of the local Warrior Guild. However, He could not contend against the people from the Warrior Guild's law enforcement hall. He could only silently look at Xiao Chen, hoping that he would make a decision. Slap. Xiao Chen slapped Xiao En's face and said angrily, "Where did you come from, you idiot? Can't you see that these two masters are still here? You're just going to distribute the spoils in a do manner? Why don't you ask them what they want?" Xiao En's was immediately stunned by Xiao Chen's slap. He really could not understand. He had already revealed his proud identity. How could someone still dare to hit him? He was a deacon of the Warrior Guild's law enforcement hall. Wasn't this person afraid of his revenge? Granny Nanshan glanced at Linger. Although she knew that Xiao Chen might be using their name to cause trouble, she did not care. She had originally wanted all the spirit jades here. Since Xiao En's was jumping up and down, she could not open her mouth to argue. It was just right for Xiao Chen to do it for her. Linger revealed the strength of a third-stage martial master. Xiao En's was hit. Just as he was wondering what Xiao Chen's strength was, he looked over and saw a third-stage martial master chick. He was so scared that he wet his pants. Cheng Tianxiu's expression changed slightly. With Xiao En's help, he had secretly reached the half-step martial master realm. This was something that he had not told anyone. He had thought that he would be able to control the situation by coming here. However, from the looks of it now, he was nothing. Not to mention the third-stage martial master chick, even the young hero who had slapped Xiao En seemed to have the strength of a 10th-stage inner force expert or a first-stage martial master. Xiao En's was dumbfounded and speechless. The Supernatural Investigation Bureau is only here to get a share of the loot. It is impossible for us to ask for a bigger share. We have never thought of that. Song Huawu said. However, Xiao En's, if you are capable, please do as you please. Chapter 508. This. Xiao En's heard that there was a good treasure inside. He didn't want to give it up, but he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to get his hands on it. He was a little hesitant. He was in a dilemma and didn't know what to do. Let's follow them and see what we can get. However, if we crack the mechanism ourselves, can the things inside belong to me? Cheng Tianxiu suddenly asked. Song Huawu was slightly stunned. She looked at the master and disciple, but they didn't seem to be tempted at all. They were only here for the spirit jades. Other things didn't seem to attract them at all. Young hero Xiao Chang, tell us about it. Granny Nanshan spoke up. Xiao Chen was the most pleasing to the eye in this place. He had already agreed to take all the spiritual jades. Now that they were here, he gave them all to them. Although he had no choice, it was neat and tidy. It saved Granny Nanshan a lot of trouble. Otherwise, it would be bad for her reputation if she fought with these juniors. She wouldn't look good either. Granny Nanshan was someone who paid attention to such things. If others can't crack it and you crack it, it belongs to you. Xiao Chen thought for a moment and said, if others can crack it, you guys are the last to arrive, so you can only give up. All right. Xiao En's laughed after hearing this. Although he hated Xiao Chen, he was happy that Xiao Chen had said something beneficial to him. He was very happy. Then it's a deal. As for the other things, you can give them to us if you don't want them. If you guys can't crack the mechanism, we will crack it, and the items will naturally belong to us. No one had any objections. Mo Xiangyin and Clay Den had completely become a foil. They didn't dare to raise any objections. At this moment, everyone was sitting cross-legged to the side to rest, waiting for the moment when the moon would be blocked. If we can crack it, then you don't even have a fart. Xiao Chen said. Fine. Xiao En's gritted his teeth. He did not dare to provoke this person in front of him. He did not know where this loose cultivator had come from, but he was not afraid of his martial artist guild's law enforcement hall. Damn it, the most infuriating thing was that his surname was also Xiao. Who knew what relationship he had with Xiao Chen? The moon was small, like a crescent moon. As it slowly disappeared from the sky, so did the moonlight. Clay Den turned on the searchlight that he had prepared beforehand. Xiao Chen was a cultivator, so he could see the situation clearly. However, these warriors and martial artists could not, so this searchlight was of great use. It's almost there. I can feel that the array is starting to weaken, Chen Xinyang cried out in surprise. Xiao Chen was a little surprised. This Chen Xinyang didn't seem to be very strong, but she was proficient in these kinds of arrays. She was indeed a talent. While Xiao Chen was surprised, he heard the voice of the elder heaven ancestor. This Chen Xinyang really knows some things. This array is something that cultivators are proficient in, and she actually knows about it. The voice of the elder heaven ancestor was also a little surprised. It should be enough. Let me try. Chen Xinyang observed the stone door for a long time. Then, she took out a small flag from her backpack. It was similar to the kind of flag that football fans wave when they watch a game. Then, she directly threw it in front of the stone door. Array flag. She actually has this kind of thing? The voice of the elder heaven ancestor was even more surprised. Elder heaven ancestor, what is this array flag? Xiao Chen asked in his heart. Array flag is a tool that array masters use to arrange and break arrays. I don't know where this Chen Xinyang got this kind of thing. Did she make it herself? The elder heaven ancestor said in surprise. Chen Xinyang's action surprised the others. But Chen Xinyang didn't care about their expressions. After throwing the array flag at the stone door, it disappeared. Then, she took out another array flag from her backpack and threw it at the stone door. After the array flag fell on the stone door, it also inexplicably disappeared without a trace. This made everyone even more surprised. It's done. It didn't rebound. Instead, it swallowed the array flag that I used to break the array. This proves that the array has entered a weakened state. Everyone, follow my instructions. Everyone take a position and attack with all your strength. Chen Xinyang said. AI, it seems that this Chen Xinyang knows something about arrays, but not too much. The voice of the elder heaven ancestor sounded, this array, as long as you study it carefully, you can break it. Although there won't be any problem if you attack it directly, it will take a lot of effort. Oh. Elder heaven ancestor, do you have a way to break it? Xiao Chen asked. And, you can also do it. The elder heaven ancestor said, it's just that you can't make the array flag. You need a foundation establishment expert. But if you have a good array flag, then you can follow my instructions to break the array. Then this Chen Xinyang. Xiao Chen was a little surprised by the array flag in her hand. It shouldn't be made by her. I don't know where she got it. The elder heaven ancestor said. Xiao Chen nodded and said, then do I need to help them? Forget it, I don't want to be exposed. It's better to avoid trouble. You don't know these people. The elder heaven ancestor said. Chen Xinyang quickly assigned everyone's positions. Since they didn't understand these things, they could only follow Chen Xinyang's arrangement, and each group of 3 occupied a position. Xiao Chen, Clay Den, and Song Huawu were in a group. Xia Shibin, Qing Tianxiu, and Xiao Ens were in a group. Mo Xiangyin and his family were in a group. Grandma Nanshan and her disciple were strong, so they were divided into 4 groups. As for Chen Xinyang, she was in charge of dispatching and commanding. After the arrangements were made, Chen Xinyang nodded and said, in a moment, when I tell you to attack, you all just attack the direction in front of you with all your strength. Although this array is weak, it is not weak. When the time comes, we will work together to break this array. Everyone, don't hold back your strength. That will only make the array more difficult to break. When the time comes, when the moon comes out, none of us will be able to break the array. Does everyone understand? Understood. Everyone listened to Chen Xinyang's words and immediately nodded. They all understood the pros and cons. Alright, let's attack. Chen Xinyang suddenly shouted, and then everyone immediately began to attack. It was obvious that everyone was going all out. Xiao Chen didn't hold back either. He switched back and forth between the dark flame palm and the fireball technique, continuously attacking the front. Everyone's actions seemed a bit silly, but only those who were in the middle of it knew what they were attacking. In front of them, there was an indescribable barrier that seemed like a protective barrier. Everyone's attacks made clanking sounds. Under Chen Xinyang's guidance, the 4 groups simultaneously attacked the 3 points of the array. In the beginning, the array was still constantly rebounding everyone's attacks. However, after about an hour, the rebounding strength of the array began to decrease. Everyone was somewhat happy. It seemed that their attacks were not in vain. Chen Xinyang really did have some ability. She really knew how to break this array. Therefore, everyone's attacks became even more ferocious. They madly urged their martial skills to attack the front. Soon, everyone, let's put in more effort. Chen Xinyang looked at the sky with a somewhat worried expression. If they didn't hurry, when the moon comes out, the loosened array would once again replenish its energy. Therefore, she wanted everyone to break the array as soon as possible. Suddenly, under everyone's combined attacks, the array issued a loud rumbling sound. It seemed like something had happened. It's done. Chen Xinyang happily shouted. However, what everyone didn't expect was that the moment the array was broken, the energy contained inside seemed to explode in an instant. The explosion sent Xiao Chen and the others flying. This huge energy hit everyone's body. It was a bit excessive to die, but if they weren't prepared, they would definitely be seriously injured. Everyone was knocked to the side. Although the array was broken, they were still seriously injured. Chen Xinyang was also a bit shocked. She looked at everyone and said, I didn't expect that this array contained such a powerful energy. It was my negligence. At that moment, everyone was injured except for Chen Xinyang. If Chen Xinyang had any ulterior motives, everyone would be caught off guard. However, there were a few martial masters among them. Even if they were injured, they could still kill Chen Xinyang if they worked together. Therefore, they weren't worried, but they were more vigilant. I bet you don't have any good intentions. You want to blow us up so that you can enjoy the ancient ruins alone. Mo Xiangyin coldly snorted. He was obviously a bit dissatisfied. How could that be? Chen Xinyang said. This is just the array on the outside. There must be more hidden mechanisms inside. If all of you are injured, who will break it? Alright, let's not talk about it. This is unavoidable. If everyone is afraid of the energy explosion and doesn't use their full strength, then this array won't be broken. At that moment, Grandma Nanshan spoke. She was the strongest among them, so her injuries were also the lightest. Now that she had adjusted her breathing, she was obviously fine. Xiao Chen, on the other hand, was the person who recovered the fastest. That was because he could heal himself. Although the power of the explosion was great, it was only external injuries. It couldn't harm his foundation, so his recovery speed was the fastest. There are definitely ways to avoid it, but these people don't know about it. Elder Heaven Ancestor's voice sounded in Xiao Chen's ear. Huh? Elder Heaven Ancestor, you know about it? Why didn't you say so? Xiao Chen was a bit depressed. Everyone else is injured, but you aren't. Don't you think it's strange? When the time comes, people won't suspect Chen Xinyang, but you. Elder Heaven Ancestor said. Moreover, these injuries are nothing to you. Xiao Chen nodded. That was indeed the case. Everyone was vomiting blood. If Xiao Chen wasn't injured, everyone would definitely suspect him. Even Grandma Nanshan's mouth was bleeding. She was obviously caught off guard and was hit. Chapter 509. How does everyone feel? Chen Xinyang asked. There's a time limit to how long this formation can be activated. Although it's broken, we broke it by force. When the moon comes out, the formation will automatically recharge itself and return to its original state. We won't be able to enter then. What? The formation will return to its original state? Does that mean we still have to break the formation when we come out? Mo Xiangyin asked in surprise. That's right. Now do you know why I said I didn't do it on purpose? If something happens to everyone, I'll be trapped inside even if I go in myself. Chen Xinyang said. Everyone nodded after hearing this. However, Xiao Chen was a little puzzled. Since there was such a reason, why didn't Chen Xinyang mention it earlier? Wouldn't this reason be more convincing than Grandma Nanshan's explanation for her? However, it was really strange that she didn't mention it earlier. Very soon, Xiao Chen's injuries were healed. As for the others, they stood up one after another after consuming the medicinal pills. Now, everyone follow me into the formation. Don't act blindly without thinking and don't touch anything in the cave. Do you understand? Chen Xinyang reminded them. Everyone nodded. They had just experienced the power of the formation, so they didn't dare act blindly without thinking. They followed Chen Xinyang and entered the cave one by one. Inside the cave, there was a luminous pearl embedded every few meters. If these luminous pearls were auctioned in the secular world, each of them would fetch a sky-high price. However, in these ancient ruins, they were only used as street lights. Qiao Enz and Qing Tianxiu looked at the luminous pearls with greed in their eyes. Their status was relatively low, so they were considered existences that spent their days in the secular world. Therefore, their desire for money was especially strong. When they saw the luminous pearls, they liked them very much. They wanted to take a few of them back with them. If this item were to be taken out, it would definitely be priceless. Qing Tianxiu gave Qiao Enz a look. The two of them deliberately lagged behind the others. Soon, the two of them were at the back of the group. Then, Qiao Enz took advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention to reach for the luminous pearls from the wall. However, just as his hand touched the night luminescent pearl, an arrow came out of nowhere and pierced through Qiao Enz's shoulder. Qiao Enz immediately let out a wail, F***ck me. John Enz knelt on the ground in pain. His face was pale. He didn't know what the arrowhead was smeared with, but when it hit his body, he felt excruciating pain. It was as if his heart was being torn apart, and he wanted to die. When everyone heard the exclamation, they turned their heads and saw Qiao Enz lying on the ground. What happened? Chen Xinyang was shocked. She looked at them and asked in a deep voice, "What did you do?" "I didn't move. I don't know where the poison arrow came from. It hurts so much." "Chen Xinyang, why didn't you tell me?" Qiao Enz naturally refused to admit that he had touched the night pearl. "That's impossible. I was walking in front and you guys were walking behind me. How could I be hit by an arrow?" Chen Xinyang was confused. "Look at the dust on the luminous pearl. There are traces of it being touched. Are you trying to steal the luminous pearl?" Xiao Chen pointed at the luminous pearl on Qiao Enz's head and mocked him. "Ah, sure enough." Song Hua Wu also saw that the luminous pearl had traces of it being touched. Obviously, it was caused by Qiao En's greed. "Didn't I tell you not to touch it? Why didn't you listen?" Chen Xinyang seemed a little agitated. "Do you know that if you touch these things, it might cause all of us to suffer? If you don't want to go, then leave as soon as possible while the array is not closed." "Humph, if you touch it again, I'll kill you." Xia Shibin glared at Qiao Enz. "You idiot." Xia Shibin saw that Xiao Chen scolded Qiao Enz, so he also scolded. "You guys." Qiao Enz was a little depressed. How could he have known that it was just touching the luminous pearl? He didn't expect that there would be danger and he would even be scolded. Especially that Xiao Chang, he was really annoying. If he didn't say anything, who would have discovered it? Qing Tianxiu pulled out the arrow from Qiao En's shoulder. There was a barb on it, causing Qiao Enz to grimace in pain. However, seeing that everyone continued to walk forward, he could only quickly keep up, temporarily ignoring the pain in his shoulder. There was no danger along the way, but there were no treasures either. However, the luminous pearls on both sides of the road could only be seen but not touched. After walking for a while, a fork appeared in front of them. Qin Xinyang stopped in her tracks and didn't rush forward. Qin Xinyang, which path should we take? Seeing that Qin Xinyang didn't speak for a long time, Mo Xiangyin couldn't help but ask. I also don't know. I didn't expect there to be a fork in the road. These two roads seem to be similar. I tried to distinguish them for a long time, but I couldn't find any difference. I also don't know which one to take. Qin Xinyang shook her head and said. Clay Den was also a little dumbfounded. If Qin Xinyang didn't know, then they didn't know either. Actually, according to him, they should just take a random path and return if they couldn't. However, no one knew if there would be danger if they took the wrong path, so they said, then what should we do? Why don't we split up and take one path each? If everyone wants to go this way, then go this way. If everyone wants to go that way, then go that way. What do you think? Xiao Enz, who had recovered some of his strength at this time, suggested. That's a good idea. Qing Tianxiu also nodded in agreement. Qin Xinyang's eyes flashed with a trace of imperceptible joy, but she quickly concealed it and nodded. This is also a good idea. Then, let's do it this way. If you want to go this way, then go this way. If you want to go that way, then go as you please. We'll go this way. Xiao Enz pointed to the right path and said without thinking. I'm with him. Qing Tianxiu pointed to Xiao Enz and said. Clay Den frowned, obviously unable to come to a decision. He glanced at Xiao Qin, hoping that he could come up with an idea. At this time, Mo Xiangyin hesitated for a moment and stood on the right side, saying, We'll also go this way. Elder Heaven Ancestor? Xiao Qin couldn't make up his mind and asked. Qin Xinyang, you can go in the opposite direction from her. Elder Heaven Ancestor suddenly said. Oh. Xiao Qin was surprised. Why must he go in the opposite direction from Qin Xinyang? He was a little puzzled, but since Elder Heaven Ancestor said so, then Elder Heaven Ancestor definitely wouldn't harm him. Therefore, Xiao Qin didn't answer and pretended to be hesitant. He didn't immediately make a decision and instead asked, Sister Qin, which way do you want to go? I think I'll go right. Qin Xinyang said after thinking for a moment. Since all of you go right, I'll go left. Xiao Qin said after thinking for a moment. Clay Den was a little puzzled. Why would Xiao Qin go left? Qin Xinyang was proficient in the 5 elements and 8 trigrams and formations. If he followed her, it would be much easier. Why would Xiao Qin choose the opposite direction? Qin Xinyang was also a little surprised, but she didn't say anything. She only nodded and said, Okay. Let's go left too. Granny Nanshan said. It wasn't because of Xiao Qin, but because she felt that it would be easier to split the loot if there were fewer people. As for Qin Xinyang, Granny Nanshan felt that it was a little strange. Ling naturally followed Granny Nanshan. Clay Den hesitated for a moment, but he still chose Qin Xinyang's team. After all, he was the one who found Qin Xinyang and she was proficient in formations. Therefore, he felt that it was safer for Qin Xinyang. Xiao Qin didn't force the issue. If he spoke now, it would arouse the suspicion of others. Song Huawu and Xia Shibin were definitely on Xiao Chen's side. Therefore, the number of people on both sides was about the same. Everyone split up and entered the fork. Granny Nanshan, where are you from? You seem rather mysterious. Xiao Qin asked as he walked. This fork was similar to the original path. There was no danger, and there were luminous pearls on both sides. Don't ask questions that you shouldn't ask. Granny Nanshan didn't answer, but Ling did. It's just a few people. It's boring. Let's just have a chat. Xiao Qin said, at your level, you shouldn't be lacking in spirit jades. Why did you still come here? Why do you have so much to say? Ling glared at Xiao Qin. I wanted to tell you something, but I won't say it if you don't want to. Xiao Qin shrugged. He was a little angry. They had promised to give him spirit jades, but they didn't have them. If there were no spirit jades in the ruins, wouldn't they be going back on their word? Granny Nanshan stopped in her tracks and turned to look at Xiaochen. Why did you disguise yourself and come here? Also, you don't seem to be injured at all. When the formation exploded, it didn't hurt you. You knew about it, so you made preparations, didn't you? After saying this, Granny Nanshan's sharp killing intent suddenly appeared. Xiaochen shivered. He didn't know what level of expert she was. The only thing Xiaochen felt was that she was powerful. She was too powerful. Xiaochen couldn't help but smile bitterly. Although his strength had increased, the illusion had lasted longer. Logically speaking, no one could see through it. Clay Den hadn't been able to see through it back then. Clay Den had only seen through his illusion because he had locked onto his aura and sensed that he wasn't running away. He hadn't seen through it with his eyes. However, Granny Nanshan was able to see through his disguise. This really surprised Xiaochen. In theory, neither demonic cultivators nor martial cultivators could see through Xiaochen's illusion, unless they were cultivators. As expected, even an expert like Ling looked at Xiaochen with slight doubt. She didn't see anything wrong with the person in front of her. Song Huawu and Xia Shibin, who were behind Xiaochen, were a little worried. However, they couldn't help at all. After all, their strength was obvious. Chapter 5:10. Granny Nanshan, what are you talking about? Why would I disguise myself? Xiaochen did not admit it. As for my injuries, I vomited blood earlier. You should have seen it. I only recovered faster because I had some healing pills with me. After we were reflected by the formation, I observed everyone's expression and performance. From the beginning to the end, you didn't take any healing medicine. Granny Nanshan's Chinese turned cold as she said, most importantly, when you're treating your injuries, your face becomes very blurry. It's as if another face is faintly discernible. You must have used the techniques of a demonic cultivator to disguise yourself. Logically speaking, the illusions of demonic cultivators are ineffective against high-level experts. I don't know why you are so powerful. However, you don't have to deny it. This. Xiaochen was shocked. He had been careless. He had not expected Granny Nanshan to be paying attention to everyone's performance. Granny Nanshan naturally knew whether he had taken any medicine or not. Most importantly, why did the illusion of his face become blurry and faintly discernible? When he thought of this, Xiaochen roughly understood what had happened. He had expended a large amount of physical strength and vital energy to break the array formation. After that, he had been injured and had to use vital energy to heal himself. Therefore, the vital energy needed to maintain the illusion was naturally less. Everyone else was busy recuperating, so no one paid any attention to Xiaochen. Therefore, no one else saw it. Qin Xinyang's strength was lower than Xiaochen's, and it was impossible for her to keep observing Xiaochen. She did not have Granny Nanshan's ability to control the situation without batting an eyelid. He had not expected Granny Nanshan to see through him. Who are you? What do you want? Linger drew her sword and pointed it at Xiaochen. She shouted angrily, tell me, or I'll kill you. You used to call me senior and said that you owed me a favor. Now, you want to kill me with your sword. You are really heartless. Since Xiaochen had been seen through, he did not need to use the illusion and waste his vital energy. Both Song Huawu and Xia Shibin knew his appearance, so he did not need to hide it from them. Hence, under Linger's astonished gaze, Xiaochen reverted to his original appearance and White Fox voice. You are. Ling felt that Xiaochen's voice was a little familiar, but she didn't recognize his face. She immediately felt a little strange. When did I call you senior, Little Hung's medicine store? Have you forgotten that you brought Granny Nanshan here for treatment? Xiaochen harumphed and said, you want to give me spirit jades? I didn't expect you to come here to get spirit jades. Ah! Ling was shocked and threw the sword in her hand to the ground. She widened her eyes and looked at Xiaochen in disbelief. You are that White Fox medicine master. Yeah, it seems like you don't pay attention to the situation outside at all. I'm wanted by the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. Almost everyone knows that the white fox is me. Xiao Chen said with a bitter smile. Granny Nanshan was also a little surprised. She had been unconscious at the time, so she did not know about Xiao Chen. However, she had heard about these things from Ling Er. Otherwise, she would not have come here with Ling Er to find ancient jade for Xiao Chen. At that moment, Granny Nanshan more or less understood that the person in front of her was her savior. The murderous aura on her body immediately disappeared. Ah, the two people next to you are from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. Does that mean they recognize you? I'll help you kill them. Ling Er's strength immediately increased, and she was about to attack Song Huawu and Xia Shibin. Although she would not kill indiscriminately, she could only attack when her savior, Xiao Chen, was involved. Don't. They are my people. Xiao Chen hurriedly stopped her. Huh? The people from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau are on your side? Ling was slightly stunned. A faint blush flashed across Song Huawu's face. Xiao Chen's words were somewhat ambiguous, which made her feel a little embarrassed. However, when she saw that the others did not seem to think too much about it, she nodded and said, I'm deskmate with Xiao Chen. This is his classmate. We can be considered to be on the same side as Xiao Chen. Oh. Everyone from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau goes to school? That's strange. Ling Er withdrew her murderous aura after hearing that. So it was young hero Xiao who saved me. I thank you here. Granny Nanshan's attitude toward Xiao Chen also changed. To be honest, young hero Xiao, back then, Ling Er promised to get some spirit jade for you. Our sect did not do anything wrong, but the sect's great elder did not believe that you could cure my injury. He felt that Ling Er and I were lying to him on purpose. We deliberately made it sound so serious so that we could get spirit jade for an outsider. What? Didn't Ling Er say that spirit jade was not valued on your side? Xiao Chen was a little puzzled. Why was this great elder so stingy? Why would he not give something that was not that great to others? In the past, they didn't receive much attention. However, things are different now. Some time ago, a teleportation array formation was discovered in an ancient ruin. That array formation uses spirit jades as a source of energy. Therefore, every sect is collecting spirit jades in order to qualify for the teleportation array formation. Granny Nanshan didn't hide anything. Our sect is doing the same. Therefore, if I ask for spirit jade now, the Great Elder will obviously not give it to me easily. So that's how it is. Xiao Chen was somewhat astonished. He had not expected that the teleportation formation would also require spirit jades. It looked like he was a step too late. If he had done so earlier, before the news spread, he would have been able to obtain spirit jades easily. Yes, but since Little Ling has agreed, we've been looking for information about spirit jades. Unfortunately, all the places with spirit jades know about the transportation matrix. Spirit jades have become invaluable, and they can't be obtained easily. That's why we came here when we heard that there are ancient ruins here that might contain spirit jades, Granny Nanshan said. That's right, but since Little Ling has agreed, we've been looking for spirit jades all this time. I also heard that there is spirit jade here, so I came here, Xiao Chen said. However, I am not sure if there really is one. We can only take it one step at a time. Granny Nanshan said, however, don't worry. We will do our best to fulfill our promise. When the time comes, if there is no spirit jade here, we will help you look for it elsewhere. Thank you very much. Xiao Chen cupped his fists. He had also figured out that Ling had not sent spirit jade over previously, not because she had not kept her promise, but because they had not been able to obtain spirit jade. There is no need to thank me. I am very grateful that you have helped me heal my injuries. Granny Nanshan said. By the way, young hero Xiao, your strength is so weak. How were you able to heal my injuries? Weak. Xiao Chen was a little embarrassed. The strength that he was so proud of had become weak in Granny Nanshan's words. I am an apothecary, so I am more proficient in these things. As for Ling, I remember that you were at the peak of the 10th level last time. How did you become a 3rd level martial master now? I was also injured last time, so my strength was suppressed, Ling said. You are so powerful. Who could hurt you? Xiao Chen was stunned. My master went berserk during cultivation, and I was guarding her, so I was affected. Ling blushed. She could not blame anyone but herself, so she felt a little embarrassed. Is that so? Xiao Chen broke out in a sweat. Since we are all on the same side, let's discuss how we should act. Don't advance rashly. Granny Nanshan reminded him. Many ancient ruins are full of danger. It is not a place that can be entered easily. All right. Xiao Chen nodded and said, Granny Nanshan, how much do you know about the 5 elements and 8 trigrams? I know a little, but not much, Granny Nanshan said. However, although Chen Xinmiang knows about it, I feel that there is something wrong with her. She is up to no good. Oh. Xiao Chen could not help but nod approvingly. Not bad. Granny Nanshan, you can also see that there is something wrong with her? There is something wrong. Logically speaking, when we separated at the fork in the road, she should have asked everyone to take the same path. That way, with so many people, if we encountered danger, we could work together to resolve it. However, she did not. Instead, she asked us to choose. This is a little strange, Granny Nanshan said. This does not conform to normal logic. Moreover, when she saw our people separated, she was secretly delighted. There is one more thing that I suspect. Xiao Chen said, back then, she said that we still had to break the array when we left, so she did not deliberately let everyone get hurt. However, she did not say it before and only said it later. In that case, she should not have asked us to separate. If everyone got separated, it would be very difficult for them to break the array with only a few people. Yes, what young hero Xiao said makes sense. Granny Nanshan said. What does this mean? I am guessing that there must be another way out of the ancient ruins. She separated us so that there would be fewer people to split the good treasures. That should be the case. Xiao Chen nodded. So, there is nothing good on this path? Xia Shibin asked in a daze. Not necessarily. Xiao Chen shook his head. Although Chen Xinmiang knows a little, it is obvious that she has not been here before. Her choice might not be the right one. That is true. Xia Shibin nodded. Boss, shall we continue forward now? Let's walk and see. Xiao Chen said. By the way, Xiao Chen, Deputy Bureau Chief Xia said that he sent you a message. Take a look. Song Huawu did not want to remind him before, but now that everyone had made it public, she said it directly. Oh. Xiao Chen took out his mobile phone. They might not have reached the depths of the ruins yet, but there was still a phone signal. Perhaps this mobile phone was specially customized by the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, and it was quite awesome. Yang Tan's mobile phone had disappeared a long time ago. This was a new one that Xiao Chen had applied for, and it still used Yang Tan's number and information. The message read, help me find a small booklet called The 5 Poison Secrets in the Ancient Ruins. If it is found by others, try to snatch it back. I will find a way to coordinate this year's cultivation resources and give you 50% more than usual. Chapter 5:11. After reading it, Xiao Chen handed the phone to Song Huawu and asked, what is this? Did he tell you? No. It seems like it wasn't an order from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, but his own. You have a beneficial relationship with him, but we don't. He wouldn't tell us about this. Song Huawu looked at Xia Zhili's promise and immediately gritted her teeth in anger. The Supernatural Investigation Bureau was supposed to be a high and mighty existence, but it has been turned into a mess by these black sheep. Cultivation resources were supposed to belong to everyone, so he could only embezzle from others if he gave you more. Our resources were all embezzled by these vermin and given to their trusted aides. I really want to kill him. Xiao Chen hadn't expected Song Huawu to have such a sense of justice. However, when he thought about it, it made sense. Song Huawu had been diligent and earnest, yet her cultivation resources had been embezzled. Meanwhile, Yang Jianan was a bootlicker, yet he received more cultivation resources than others every year. How could the others feel indignant? Granny Nanshan, have you heard that there is a booklet in the ancient ruins called the 5 Poisons Secret Manual? Xiao Chen couldn't help but ask. Granny Nanshan was slightly taken aback. She then shook her head and said, I only paid attention to the spirit jades. I'm not interested in anything else. This ancient ruins is a 3rd grade to 5th grade ruin. Although there are good treasures inside, they are relatively inferior. I don't care for them. Xiao Chen was a little surprised. If Granny Nanshan didn't care for the items in the ancient ruins, then how powerful was the power behind her? However, Xiao Chen didn't bother asking about Granny Nanshan's background. Everyone had already been honest with each other, so Granny Nanshan had naturally said what she could. As for the rest, there was no need to say it. Even if Xiao Chen asked, they wouldn't say anything. Young hero Xiao, you and the Hong Clan Chamber of Commerce? Granny Nanshan suddenly asked. Hong Zhu and I are good friends. Xiao Chen didn't hide anything. I came to help her look after the store that day. Hee, it seems like I'm really lucky. If Medicine Master Chen or Medicine Master Lu were here, they might not have been able to heal my injuries so quickly. It's not just that our great elder doesn't believe it. If I hadn't experienced it myself, I wouldn't have believed it either. Granny Nanshan said, young hero Zhao's medical skills are really amazing. This old one is truly impressed. Granny Nanshan is too kind, Xiao Chen said modestly. Now I finally understand why you were injured just now, but you healed so quickly. Thinking of your medical skills, it's not hard to understand, Granny Nanshan said with a smile. As they continued to move forward, Song Huawu lowered her voice and said to Xiao Chen, didn't you want to bring Yi Xiaoya along? Why didn't you bring it? I'm afraid I'll be exposed. Xiao Chen said, the fewer people who know about my identity, the better. If she comes, people might be suspicious. Moreover, if there's anything good here, I won't forget about her. Song Huawu nodded. Fortunately, you know Granny Nanshan. Otherwise, I'm afraid things would be difficult to deal with. Yes, it seems like choosing this way was the right choice. Xiao Chen said, but in his heart, he asked the Elder Heaven Ancestor, Elder Heaven Ancestor, is this really the right way? According to my observation, it should be possible to go either way. It's just that the paths are different to confuse people. The designer of the ruins didn't specify which path is correct. According to my experience, this is the case, the Elder Heaven Ancestor said. In other words, both paths might be safe? Xiao Chen asked. Yes, but one of them might be slightly more dangerous, but it can still be resisted. The Elder Heaven Ancestor said, of course, this is only my judgment. It might not be accurate. It might be smooth sailing. All right. Xiao Chen nodded. In fact, what he wanted to know the most was whether this path was correct or not. It seemed like there shouldn't be a problem now. Sure enough, there was no obstruction along the way. Although the luminous pearls on both sides were bright and tempting, no one touched them. However, to everyone's disappointment, although there was no danger along the way, there was nothing good either. After walking for a while, a vast hall appeared in front of them. Obviously, they had reached their destination. They came to the hall from the exit and saw another passage beside the passage. It should be the one that Chen Xinmiang and the others had taken before. Sure enough, the Elder Heaven Ancestor was right. These two paths could lead to this place. However, Chen Xinmiang wasn't in the hall. In the distance, there was a stone door. Did Chen Xinmiang and the others enter the stone door first? However, seeing that the stone door was intact, it didn't seem like anyone had passed through it. Are they not here yet? Xiao Chen asked. Granny Nanshan stared at the ground. After a while, she said, I don't think so. The dust on the ground is moving in a regular pattern, which proves that no one has passed through here. Xiao Chen looked at the ground carefully. Indeed, that was the case. However, he was a little worried. He wasn't worried about Qin Xinyang, as her death had nothing to do with him. He was worried about Shen Hongjian and Qing Tianxiu. Although the Qing family and the Xiao family were at odds, he was still the grandfather of the young mistress. It was hard to say if he was involved with Qing Mingxiang, so Xiao Chen was still quite worried. As he was thinking about this, he saw a figure covered in blood stumbling out of another passage. As soon as she came out, she fell to the ground and panted heavily. Qin Xinyang. Song Huawu was shocked. When she saw who it was, she looked behind her. There was no one there, so she couldn't help but ask, where are the others? There was a trap. They all fell into a trap. Qin Xinyang said while panting. Luckily, I know a bit about traps, so I was able to escape. What? A trap? Where is the trap? Xiao Chen quickly asked, what exactly is going on? That Xiao Enz was too greedy. He saw a treasure chest and wanted to take it, but he triggered a trap. Clayden and the others didn't have time to dodge, so they were hit by the trap. Qin Xinyang said. Then they. Xiao Chen's heart sank. After that, the ground cracked, and they all fell in. I was lucky enough to escape, but I was seriously injured by the trap. Qin Xinyang spat out a mouthful of blood as she spoke. Xiao Chen fell into deep thought. Was the other path really as the elder heaven ancestor had said dangerous? However, this Qin Xinyang was very suspicious. She ran out of the passage and fell to the ground after exiting the passage. Wasn't that too fake? Why didn't she crawl out? Thinking of this, Xiao Chen raised an eyebrow and asked coldly, did you kill them and escape by yourself? Since everyone here was Xiao Chen's people, there was nothing to be afraid of. Granny Nanshan would support him. Ah. Young hero Xiao, how is that possible? Elder sister isn't that kind of person. Besides, what good would it do me if they died? There are many dangers in the ancient ruins. Everyone should work together. Qin Xinyang was stunned. She quickly said, moreover, when we go out, we still need everyone to break the formation together. Without them, it won't be easy to break the formation, is that so? Then why didn't you let us go with you? Why did you want to act alone? What if we can't make it here, and you only have a few people left? Without the 3 martial masters on our side, can you break the formation? Xiao Chen asked with a cold smile. This. Qin Xinyang didn't expect Xiao Chen to consider things so carefully. She realized that she had been careless. Her expression was a little uncertain. Moreover, you didn't mention anything about breaking the formation when we entered the ancient ruins. Instead, you only mentioned it after. I'm afraid there must be another way out, right? And you said it on the spur of the moment. You didn't think too much about it, which led to these loopholes? Xiao Chen asked coldly. This. Qin Xinyang was a little speechless. She didn't expect Xiao Chen to be so careful and see through so many problems. Qin Xinyang was a little unwilling to give up. She turned to look at Granny Nanshan and Song Huawu, but she saw that they were also looking at her coldly. Thinking of this, she could only say, fine, I admit that I was a little petty, but Xiao Enz was really greedy. At most, I didn't help him and didn't stop him in time, you. Xiao Chen's killing intent soared. He looked at Qin Xinyang angrily. Even if Xiao Enz is a problem, let him die on his own. The others are innocent. I know, but there are limited treasures in this ancient ruin. I don't want so many people to take a share. Qin Xinyang said, they caused the problem themselves, so it's understandable that they have to bear the consequences. Now that we are the only ones left, we can get a little more. Song Huawu knew about the relationship between Xiao Chen, Clay Den, and Qing Tianxiu. She looked at Qin Xinyang and shouted, treating human lives like grass. Qin Xinyang, do you know what you're doing? That has nothing to do with me. Qin Xinyang said. If they had walked obediently, there wouldn't have been any problems. At most, I would have been selfish and didn't save them. But isn't the cultivation world like this? Take us to save them now. Song Huawu understood what Xiao Chen was thinking. It wasn't convenient for Xiao Chen to say it, so she said on behalf of Xiao Chen, this is the responsibility of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. We have to save them. If you want to go, go on your own. I'm not going, Qin Xinyang said. I have no obligation to cooperate with you. Granny Nanshan, young hero Ling, young hero Xiao, let's go first. If the people from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau want to go back, then let them. In Qin Xinyang's opinion, these people would definitely support her. After all, who would want to go back? However, she didn't expect Granny Nanshan to also say coldly, saving them is more important. Qin Xinyang, take us back unless you want to die. You. Don't meddle in other people's business. I won't go back. I don't believe you can do anything to me. Without me, you won't be able to solve the ancient tomb's mechanisms. Chapter 5:12. Look at the stone door over there. It's also a formation. You can't break it. Qin Xinyang said, so, if you want to break the formation, you have to listen to me. Otherwise, if I die, you will be trapped here and can't get out. Is that so? Xiao Chen said coldly, don't think that just because you got a few formation flags and know some shallow formation, you are a grandmaster. Even without you, we can still break the formation. You know that it's a formation flag. Qin Xinyang looked at Xiao Chen in surprise. The small flag in her hand was a very rare existence in the martial arts world. No one knew about it because these formation flags would be integrated into the formation after it was set up and could not be seen at all. These remaining formations were set up by the great powers of the ancient times, so very few people knew about formation flags. They didn't even know their names, let alone recognize them. Don't be surprised, I also know about formations. Didn't you see that I wasn't injured? I had a premonition that the formation would explode, so I dodged it at that moment. Xiao Chen said casually. Ah. Qin Xinyang looked at Xiao Chen and bit her lip, unwilling to give up. If you don't want to die, then come back with us. Xiao Chen said. All right. Qin Xinyang hesitated for a moment and nodded. They continued to move forward through the passage that Qin Xinyang had passed through. After walking for about half the distance, Qin Xinyang stopped and said, it's here. Look, there are a lot of bloodstains on the ground. Xiao Chen looked down and sure enough, there were bloodstains on the ground. It was very frightening. How did this mechanism open? Xiao Chen asked. I don't know. There was a treasure chest there before. Qiao Ens touched it and triggered the mechanism, but then the treasure chest was swept under the ground. Qin Xinyang said, pointing to a place not far away. Sure enough, there were traces of a chest on the ground. There was no dust, but there was dust everywhere. Xiao Chen arrived near the treasure chest. He didn't see any mechanisms or anything special, so he was a little puzzled. At this time, Granny Nanshan, Linger, Song Huawu, and Xia Shibin were also helping him look for mechanisms nearby, but they didn't find anything. Suddenly, from the ceiling of the passageway, a long iron block that was chained up by a chain suddenly appeared and smashed towards Xiao Chen and the others. The cross-section of the iron block was almost as wide as a passageway, and it was very long. There was no way to dodge, no way to dodge. At this moment, Qin Xinyang was standing not too far away, looking at them with a smug smile on her face. There was a hint of ridicule in her smile, as though she was saying, are you all stupid? Let you come back? Clang! Granny Nanshan suddenly roared as the metal block came crashing down. She pushed with both hands, trying to push the metal block up. However, the metal block was made of some unknown material. It was extremely heavy. Even with all her strength, Granny Nanshan could only slow down the speed of the metal block's descent, making it slightly slower. Granny Nanshan was stunned. She was a little shocked. She knew her own strength very well. This metal block didn't look very big, so how could it be so powerful? There's no need to resist. This is the power of the array formation. Qin Xinyang laughed sinisterly. All of you shall die. There was a path to heaven, but you refused to take it. Since you insisted on dying, I shall grant your wish. Go down and be buried with Clayden and the others. So you were the one who caused their deaths. Xiao Chen shouted angrily. That's right. It's too late now. Following Qin Xinyang's words, the large piece of metal fell down and smashed into Xiao Chen and the others' bodies. Although Granny Nanshan had blocked it, Xiao Chen and the others couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood when the metal block came crashing down. They were seriously injured and couldn't get out from under the metal block. Goodbye, everyone. As Qin Xinyang spoke, she reached out and casually pressed a few times on the wall. Suddenly, a huge crack appeared on the ground under the metal block. Everyone fell down quickly, and the crack above them slowly closed up. When the ground was completely closed up, the metal block rose up again and was completely hidden in the ceiling. Only the blood that Xiao Chen and the others had just spat out was left on the ground. A bunch of idiots. I wanted to keep you guys as cannon fodder, but I didn't expect you to be so eager to die. I can only fulfill your wish. Qin Xinyang sneered and quickly ran toward the hall. Xiao Chen and the others fell rapidly in the darkness. Everyone was falling very fast, so it was difficult to see the situation below. Even Granny Nanshan couldn't sense it. However, Xiao Chen's six senses were powerful, so he could still see that there was a pool below them. This made him heave a sigh of relief. Even if everyone was an expert and Xiao Chen was a cultivator, falling from such a high height would definitely be a problem. They would definitely be smashed to pieces. Plop. Everyone fell into the pool. Apart from Xiao Chen, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, they were still alive. The pool was a little deep, but everyone didn't care. They quickly swam to the shore. At that moment, a weak voice came from the shore. Who, Clayden? Xiao Chen looked up. Indeed, there were a few people sitting not far from the shore of the pool. It was Clayden and the others. Xiao Chen could see them clearly, but they couldn't see Xiao Chen and the others. Therefore, Xiao Chen said, Clayden, right? Are you guys alright? We're all injured. Are you guys injured too? We were tricked by that B*TCH, Qin Xinyang. Clayden was a little angry. We were seriously injured and fell down. Fortunately, there was a pool and we were able to keep our lives. We almost died here. Yeah, that Qin Xinyang is really despicable. If I can get out, I'll definitely tear her to pieces. The one who spoke was Mo Xiangyin. My son's strength is weak, and he's currently unconscious. I'm so angry. Xiao Chen looked over. Sure enough, Mo Jiqiu was lying beside Mo Xiangyin. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Not far away, there was also a person lying beside Qing Tianxiu. It was Qiao En's. Since Mo Jiqiu was unconscious, Qiao En's wasn't any better. We were also tricked by Qin Xinyang. Xiao Chen said. When we came out of the passage, we saw Qin Xinyang stumbling out alone. I was suspicious and asked for your whereabouts. She said that you fell into a trap, so I asked her to lead us to look for you. In the end, you came to look for us? Clayden was a little excited. Sure enough, Xiao Chen wouldn't abandon him. However, that Qin Xinyang was too vicious. She seemed to be very familiar with some of the traps in the ancient ruins. Even if they were very strong, they still couldn't guard against her. Yes, we felt that there was something wrong with her, so we came to look for you. I didn't expect to fall into her trap. Xiao Chen secretly sighed. It was already too late when he discovered the problem. Otherwise, he could have instantly killed her with a fireball. However, when the iron block smashed down, he didn't have enough time to circulate his yuan qi. Young hero Xiao, I really have to thank you. You can be considered a righteous person. If it was someone else, they would have wished for as few people as possible to divide the treasures. I didn't expect you to find us. Clayden said with some emotion. That's right, young hero Xiao, this old man is also very grateful. Qing Tianxiu said sincerely. May I know how old young hero Xiao Chang is? Are you married? Xiao Chen was a little speechless. What does this mean? However, he still said, Hero Cheng, let's think about how to get out of here. Now is not the time to talk about these trivial things. The person beside you, is he dead? He's still alive, but... Qing Tianxiu sighed. He originally thought that Xiao Enz was a good person. He had both status and background. If he married into the Qing family, it would definitely bring great development to the Qing family. However, along the way to the ancient ruins, Qing Tianxiu was already a little disappointed in him. From what he said, he only wanted Qing Menjing to be his concubine, not his wife. How could this Qing Tianxiu agree? No matter what, the Qing family was the #1 family in Songning. Moreover, the Qing family was still counting on the Qiao family for development. If Qing Menjing was only Qiao En's concubine, how could the Qing family receive the corresponding strong support? Without strong support, wouldn't the Qing family have no benefits? Moreover, this was not all. After entering the ancient ruins, Qing Tianxiu discovered that this Qiao Enz was really greedy. He was even more greedy than him. He was from an aristocratic family in the secular world. It was normal for him to be greedy for money. However, he was a warrior guild law enforcement hall deacon and a member of the Qiao family. Such a high level, yet he was still greedy for money. Forget about the night luminescent pearl. That was what Qing Tianxiu also wanted. However, Qing Tianxiu didn't dare to touch the private room after that. He had learned his lesson from the night luminescent pearl. He was already very careful, but Xiao En still touched it. If it weren't for his greed, would these people have fallen for Qin Xinyang's trick? Everyone dispersed. Qin Xinyang wasn't that easy to deal with. What is this place? Did you guys investigate before? Xiao Chen asked. We didn't dare to investigate. It's pitch black here. We can't see anything. There's no light at all. Qing Tianxiu sighed. Following the sound, we held hands and moved forward to investigate. However, we discovered that there were many dried bones not far from us. We didn't dare to go any further. It was impossible to tell north from south. Who would dare to act blindly without thinking? Xiao Chen nodded. Dried bones? Could it be that someone fell down and died here? Now that he thought about it, it was possible. It was pitch black here. Whether it was a martial artist or a martial artist, their perception of the martial path was very poor. Moreover, it was impossible for them to see in the dark. If other martial artists fell down and couldn't find a way out, it was very likely that they would be trapped here and die. If he didn't come down, Clayden and the others would also have nowhere to go. However, Xiao Chen couldn't ignore Clayden. No matter what, as long as his relationship with Shin Jingxian existed, Xiao Chen could only care about him. Chapter 5:13. I'll take a look first. Follow me later. Xiao Chen thought for a moment and said, I'm a demonic cultivator. The mantra I practice is quite special and my perception is quite strong. Follow you? Who knows if you'll trick us or not? Mo Xiangyin said. If you don't believe me, you can stay here. No one will force you to follow me. Xiao Chen said, don't think that you have to follow me just because I came here to find you. There's no need. This. Mo Xiangyin hesitated. Indeed, if Xiao Chen did not force them to leave, they could choose not to. I'll follow you, young hero Xiao, Clayden said without hesitation. I'll follow you too. Qing Tianxiu knew that staying here was equivalent to waiting for death. Previously, he had impulsively opened up a path and ended up touching a pile of bones. He wanted to go out more than the others. Shen Hongjian was a martial arts fanatic and did not have a strong sense of belonging to the Shen family. It was not a big deal for him to die outside. Mo Xiangnin's family of 3 was here, so it was not a big deal to die together. However, Qing Tianxiu was different. He was the head of the Qing family in Songning. He was worried about the Qing family and did not want to stay here. As long as there was hope, he would fight for it. Moreover, in his opinion, since Xiao Chang and the others came back to find them, they were definitely not bad people. There was no harm in following them. This, then will follow too. Mo Xiangnin gritted his teeth and said. Follow us now? We can't follow them for nothing. Go carry that Xiao something. Xiao Chen said. He did not let Mo Xiangnin carry Xiao En's, so Qing Tianxiu had to carry him. Why should I carry him? Mo Xiangnin snorted. My son needs someone to carry him. Don't you have a wife? What does she do? Can't she carry him? Xiao Chen snorted coldly. Don't be so ungrateful. If you don't want to carry him, then stay here and don't follow me. You. Mo Xiangnin was somewhat annoyed. I'm just following you. What can you do to me? In this darkness, if I want to kill you, it's as easy as flipping my hand. Xiao Chen threatened indifferently. You. Mo Xiangnin's heart skipped a beat when he thought of Xiao Chen's fireball martial skill. Despite his reluctance, he still said, Fine, I'll carry it. Qing Tianxiu originally wanted to carry Xiao En's on his back. No matter what, he had to take Xiao En's with him. He followed him here. If he died, even if they didn't blame him, the Xiao family wouldn't let it go. Qing Tianxiu pulled Xiao En's over and carefully handed him to Mo Xiangnin. Then, Mo Xiangnin carried Xiao En's on his back, while his wife, Ma Xiaoying, carried their son, Mo Zhiqiu. Follow me, and don't fall behind. If anyone falls behind, just say the word and we'll pull one by one. Xiao Chen said as he grabbed Song Huawu's hand. Song Huawu held Ling held Granny Nanshan, and Granny Nanshan held Xia Shibin. Then, the others formed a long line. Only then did Xiao Chen walk forward. Apart from Xiao Chen, no one else would die here unless they had some kind of scanning equipment. But who would have prepared scanning equipment here? Even if they had, it would have been damaged when they fell into the pool, so it probably couldn't be used anymore, right? Xiao Chen surveyed his surroundings. This was an extremely large place that resembled an underground palace. It was very spacious, and there were stone pillars in the middle supporting it. However, the vastness of this place made it difficult for people to get a clear sense of direction. The most confusing thing was that these stone pillars weren't built according to the rules. Instead, they were all crooked and rugged. If one couldn't see anything while walking among them, it was very likely that they would end up like a ghost walking on a wall. No matter how they walked, they still couldn't find their way out. They just didn't know where they were. However, Xiao Chen could see, so there was no problem of not being able to get out. However, as far as he could see, Xiao Chen couldn't see the end and didn't know which way to go. However, it would be easy to find the edge first. As he thought of this, Xiao Chen identified a direction and quickly led everyone forward. In the beginning, everyone just followed Xiao Chen all the way forward. However, as they walked and walked, Mo Xiangnin became a little worried. Young hero Xiao, can you get out? Why do I feel like there's no end even after walking so far? It's even further than when we walked through the long corridor above. If you don't believe me, then don't follow me, Xiao Chen said coldly. Mo Xiangnin hesitated for a moment and didn't say anything else. Xiao Chen continued to walk forward. Finally, after half an hour, they arrived at the edge of the underground palace. The edge here wasn't just a simple wall, but a passageway at regular intervals. There were many passageways. If one couldn't see them, even if they entered one, they would have to walk around inside and come out from another passageway. When they came out again, if they mistakenly thought that they had arrived at a new area and continued to wander around the underground palace, they would never be able to get out. However, the person who designed the underground palace might have left a corresponding number on each passageway for their own convenience. The passageway beside Xiao Chen had a large number, 37, written on it, and below it was a small number, 64. Xiao Chen guessed that this was passageway 37, and it led to passageway 64. In order to confirm his guess, Xiao Chen led everyone into this passageway. Everyone also felt that they had entered a passageway and thought that Xiao Chen had found the right exit, so they were a little excited. Of course, Xiao Chen didn't say much to them. After walking for a while, Xiao Chen came out of a passageway. He looked up and saw that it was indeed passageway 64. It seemed that his previous guess was right. These passageways were all connected. Since he had found the pattern, Xiao Chen just needed to find a passageway that wasn't marked as such to enter. Xiao Chen led everyone along the wall and continued forward. There were several times when Emo Xiangyin wanted to ask again, but he held back. Why would he ask if the others didn't? After walking for a while, Xiao Chen finally stopped, and everyone followed suit. Emo Xiangyin asked, "What's wrong? Did we go the wrong way? You talk too much nonsense." Xiao Chen was in the middle of his joy, but he was annoyed when he heard Emo Xiangyin's words. "Are you going or not? If you're not, then F***ck off." Emo Xiangyin was stunned and quickly shut his mouth. "If I've found it right, we can get out of this passageway." Xiao Chen looked at the symbol on the passageway in front of him. There was only a symbol, and no number. Xiao Chen thought about it and walked in without hesitation. After turning a few rounds, a faint light appeared in front of him. When everyone saw this, they were a little excited. Light. It was actually light. It seemed that they had found the right place. "Young hero Xiao, have we found the right place?" Granny Nanshan was also a little surprised. Even she couldn't accurately pinpoint their position in the dark, but Xiao Chen could. Wasn't this too amazing? It should be. Xiao Chen nodded. Because there was light, everyone didn't need to hold hands anymore. They could see the situation in front of them, so they all let go of each other. However, Xiao Chen could see, so it wasn't obvious when he came here in the dark. He didn't let go of Song Huawu, so he still held her hand and walked forward. Song Huawu blushed a little. Previously, it could be said that she had no choice. It was fine if Xiao Chen held her hand, but now that there was light, why was Xiao Chen still holding her hand? She wanted to let go, but she was afraid that she would lose face if she let go of Xiao Chen, so she let Xiao Chen hold her hand and continued walking forward. Xia Shibin saw it, but he didn't say anything. He had long felt that there was something going on between Xiao Chen and Song Huawu. Otherwise, why wouldn't Xiao Chen change seats with Yang Tan? He would rather offend Yang Tan than agree. As for the others, they weren't that gossipy and had long ignored this situation. They were focused on getting out of here, so they didn't care about anything else. The further they went, the brighter it became. Finally, everyone saw the luminous pearls on both sides of the road. Moreover, since there was light, everyone could feel that the road was sloping. In other words, they might have reached the ruins from before and walked out of the underground palace. Everyone was a little excited. Qing Tianxiu was the happiest. He had been in despair before, but now that he was out, he felt that young hero Xiao Cheng was really extraordinary. He was simply too amazing. From the corner of his eyes, he noticed that Xiao Chen was holding Song Huawu's small hand. Qing Tianxiu was stunned for a moment before a smile flashed across his mouth. Looking at Song Huawu's shy and awkward look, Qing Tianxiu thought that Xiao Cheng wanted to take advantage of Song Huawu, and Song Huawu couldn't say anything. It seems like he's a person who likes beauties. I wonder if he's interested in Qing Menjing? I have to properly investigate this Xiao Cheng's background. This person isn't an ordinary person. However, as the crowd walked forward, they suddenly heard a faint sound coming from the front. This caused them to be instantly shocked. There's someone in front? Who could it be? Logically speaking, if there was someone in the ancient ruins, it could only be Qin Xinyang. However, how could there be such fighting sounds when Qin Xinyang was alone? What was going on? Could there be other people? Everyone consciously stopped talking and walked forward carefully. They wanted to find out what was going on. Everyone was a cautious person, so it was impossible for them to casually make a sound and expose themselves. As they walked forward, finally, at the entrance of the passage in front of them, a place that looked like an inquiry appeared. Xiao Chen looked from afar. This wasn't the hall from before. This was because just the color of the floor and the carvings in the hall were different. Everyone came to the exit of the passage, but they didn't walk out. Under Xiao Chen's signal, they just stood at the entrance of the passage and looked out carefully. They only saw that not far away, Qin Xinyang was standing in front of a stone door, breaking an array. She threw small flags in different directions at the stone door. Then, with her other hand, she kept attacking the stone door with martial arts. Chapter 5:14. Xiao Chen took a closer look. This time, Qin Xinyang did not seem to be throwing the small flags randomly like before. Instead, she was throwing the formation flags into the formation in front of the stone door one by one in a systematic manner. Elder Heaven Ancestor, can she break the formation by herself? Xiao Chen asked curiously. It looks like it's possible. What she knows is definitely not the superficial knowledge she had before. She's actually proficient in some formation techniques. Although she's not particularly proficient, she does know a thing or two. From the direction in which she threw the flags, it can be seen that she's constantly weakening the formation's energy. In this way, she can completely break the formation by herself. Elder Heaven Ancestor said. No wonder. Xiao Chen said. This Qin Xinyang dared to directly bring them into the underground palace, leaving her alone. Presumably, she has a way to break the formation by herself. However, it's more complicated and laborious. If she could get some free labor, she naturally wouldn't be happy. Previously, she had separated everyone, killed one group, and left the other group alive. This was to leave some free labor. Based on Qin Xinyang's vicious nature, even if they didn't go looking for Clay Den, she would still find an opportunity to kill them after they helped her break the formation. Mo Xiangnin's eyes were bloodshot. He didn't know whether his son was alive or dead. He also didn't know whether he could survive and leave the ruins. Therefore, when he saw his enemy, Qin Xinyang, he wanted to rush out and fight her. However, Xiao Chen waved his hand, telling him not to be impulsive. He mouthed a hint, wait until she breaks the formation first. Xiao Chen certainly wouldn't let go of such free labor. This Qin Xinyang wanted to use them as laborers. How could Xiao Chen not have the same idea? Finally, a loud bang came from the formation in front of the stone door. Qin Xinyang was so scared that she hurriedly dodged. Obviously, the formation had been broken by her. On the other side, Mo Xiangnin, who was standing beside Xiao Chen, had already reached the end of his patience. He abandoned Xiao En's and rushed out, shouting, Qin Xinyang, you be *tch, hand over your life. Qin Xinyang was stunned for a moment. Her footsteps slowed down. As a result, the energy from the explosion of the formation directly affected her, causing her to fly out with a bang. She spat out a mouthful of blood and fell heavily to the ground. Why aren't you dead? Qin Xinyang turned her head and stared at Mo Xiangnin and the others in shock. It would have been fine if it was just Mo Xiangnin, but Granny Nanshan, Xiao Chang, and the others had all walked out of the passageway and were staring at her coldly. Are you surprised? Qin Xinyang, I didn't expect it to be you who schemed to kill us. Xiao Chen had a good impression of her before. At the very least, he thought she was better than the other person Clay Den had found. But now, it seemed that she was a bad person. I really didn't expect you to still be alive. Qin Xinyang decided to shed all pretense of cordiality. However, you can't kill me. You still need my help to break the formation. Otherwise, you won't be able to enter or leave. Without me, you will die. Mo Xiangnin, kill her. Xiao Chen said coldly. Ha. All right. Mo Xiangyin pulled out his sword and stabbed it into Qin Xinyang's chest. She had been seriously injured from breaking the formation, so she didn't even have time to counterattack or dodge. She had already become a ghost under Mo Xiangyin's sword. Qin Xinyang still had a look of disbelief on her face before she died. She didn't believe that Xiao Chang had really asked someone to kill her. Without her, how would they get out? How would they break the formation? How was that possible? She had died with everlasting regret. That's right, young hero Xiao. Without Qin Xinyang, would we be able to get out? Qing Tianxiu suddenly remembered the key problem. Qin Xinyang was right. They didn't know how to break the formation. Don't you understand how you got up here? Is there a need for her? Xiao Chen said coldly. That's right. Young hero Xiao is also proficient in these things. No wonder. Then we really don't need this vicious woman anymore. It's good that she's dead, so that she won't harm us again. Qing Tianxiu nodded in relief as he thought about how Xiao Chang had led them out of the underground palace without a hitch. Mo Xiangyin was infuriated. After he had killed someone, he regretted it a little. However, after hearing Xiao Chang's words, he calmed down. Young hero Xiao, don't worry. The few of us will follow your lead. When we find a good treasure, you can pick it first. As for the rest, you can decide how you want to split it. We won't have any complaints. Although I, Mo Xiangyin, am an arrogant person, I know how to repay kindness. Killing Qin Xinyang will make me very happy. That's right. We will listen to young hero Xiao. Clay Den hurriedly agreed. In his opinion, his great-grandson-in-law would not mistreat him. We don't need our spiritual jades. We will give them to young hero Xiao. Grandma Nanshan said. We, the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, also support young hero Xiao. Song Huawu said. I naturally have nothing to say. Qing Tianxiu wanted Xiao Chang to be his grandson-in-law, so he naturally wouldn't say anything. Furthermore, with so many people supporting Xiao Chang, there was no point in declaring it himself. All right. Xia Shibin, bring Qin Xinyang's backpack over. I have a use for it. Since everyone had decided, there were naturally no objections. Xiao Chen looked at the broken stone door and walked in. The elder heaven ancestor hadn't said anything about danger here. No problem. Xia Shibin picked up Qin Xinyang's backpack and carried it on his back. Everyone followed Xiao Chen inside. Grandma Nanshan was a little puzzled. Young hero Xiao, we have already passed through 2 halls. Why haven't we seen any treasures? If I'm not wrong, this relic should be the warehouse of a big sect or family in ancient times. There should have been something in the 2 halls that we passed through before, but it was taken away by the people who came here first. Xiao Chen thought for a moment and said, if I'm not wrong, we aren't the only ones who have been to these ruins. Several groups of people have come before, and some even died in the abyss. As for Qin Xinyang, she should have obtained some information from the people who came here before. That's why she knows about these ruins so well. So that's how it is. In other words, there should be treasures in those 2 halls, but the treasures have already been taken away. Is that so? Ling asked after listening. Yes, of course, it's just a guess. Otherwise, it's impossible for there to be nothing. Xiao Chen said. After these formations are broken, they have an automatic recovery effect. After a period of time, they will automatically accumulate energy and return to their previous state. Therefore, even if they have been broken before, they still need to be broken again before we come here. If all the formations have been broken, then wouldn't our trip be in vain? Clay Den asked with some disappointment. That's right, but I hope that's not the case, Xiao Chen said. Yeah, I hope that's not the case. Mo Xiangyin also nodded. After they passed through the passage, they saw another hall in front of them. However, this hall was different from the previous one. There were several boxes and shelves on both sides of the hall. Everyone was pleasantly surprised and quickly walked over to take a look. Xiaochen didn't stop them because there didn't seem to be any mechanism here. The mechanism in the passage probably wasn't caused by Qiao En's looking at the treasure box, but by Qin Xinyang. Otherwise, why would Xiaochen fall down the second time? Sure enough, when everyone opened the lids of the boxes and the doors of the shelves, nothing out of the ordinary happened. However, to everyone's disappointment, there was nothing here. The boxes were empty, and the shelves were also empty. It seems that someone has taken it away. Qing Tianxiu said disappointedly. Could it be that these ancient ruins are simply a lie and are empty? It's hard to say. Xiaochen combined Qin Xinyang's situation with the white bones he saw in the underground palace. He had already determined that someone had been here, so it wasn't too surprising that there was nothing here. In this hall, there was still a stone door, and in front of the stone door was another formation. However, this time, Xiaochen didn't let everyone attack it. Instead, he let Xia Shibin take Qin Xinyang's backpack. Xiaochen looked inside and saw a bag of formation flags and a map. The map depicted the situation of the ruins. To Xiaochen's relief, the map only drew up to this point. In front of the stone door, there were a few question marks. It was probably because the people who came here before didn't break the formation to open the stone door. On the side, there were some papers that recorded Qin Xinyang's analysis on how to break the stone door. This wasn't of much use to Xiaochen. It seemed that Qin Xinyang deliberately used everyone as cannon fodder, but she didn't want to die here. She really deserved to be unlucky. Elder Heaven Ancestor, how do I break this formation? Xiaochen asked shamelessly. I said do it. Elder Heaven Ancestor didn't talk nonsense. Sometimes, he really didn't know how to deal with such a disciple. Everyone, stay away from the side. I'm going to break the formation. Xiaochen said in a very arrogant manner. You can break the formation by yourself? That's too amazing. Young Master Chang is so powerful. Xia Shibin flattered. He was used to flattering Yang Tan, so it was natural for him to do so. Mo Xiangyin glanced at Xia Shibin and thought to himself. This Supernatural Investigation Bureau is also flattering Xiao Chang, really. But thinking about it, this Xiao Chang is really amazing. Everyone was able to escape because of him. Xiaochen followed Elder Heaven Ancestor's instructions and slowly threw the formation flags into the formation in front of the stone door. The direction, order, and timing of the formation flags were very particular. If there was a single mistake, the whole thing would be useless. However, with a super expert like Elder Heaven Ancestor around, Xiaochen only had to do as he was told. Soon, a loud bang came from the stone door, and it slowly rose. The formation was broken. Young hero Xiao Chang is really amazing. Clay Den said sincerely. This kind of person was actually Shen Jingshuan's boyfriend. He didn't know why her great-granddaughter had such good taste. Qing Tianxiu's eyes also lit up. If this kind of person could have a relationship with the Qing family, it would be easy for the Qing family to gain a foothold in Songning. Chapter 5:15. Needless to say, Mo Xiangyin had always felt that Xiaochen was very powerful. As for Grandma Nanshan, she was already numb to it. If Xiaochen could heal her injuries, what else couldn't he do? Song Huawu was a little surprised. She hadn't expected Xiaochen, a descendant of the Xiao family, to learn all these things. Not only did he know how to treat illnesses, disguise himself, and break arrays. Xiaochen walked into the passageway, and the others followed behind him. The passageway was the same as before, but everyone was a little excited. This was where Qin Xinyang's map ended. There might be something good up ahead. Finally, everyone arrived at a large hall. Just like before, there were several boxes and shelves stacked around the hall. Everyone walked over and opened the doors of the boxes and shelves. They all let out excited cheers. Although Xiaochen didn't go over, he guessed that there must be something here. Qin Xinyang's map should have been drawn by someone in recent years. Perhaps Chen Xinyang herself had already been here once with others. So until now, no one should have touched the rest of the map. Young hero Xiao, there's something good here. Come and take a look. Mo Xiangyin said loudly. Although there was something good, everyone consciously didn't touch it. They waited for Xiao Chen to come over and distribute it. Xiao Chen walked over and looked at the contents of the boxes. The first box contained a few weapons, the second was gold and silver, and among them, there was something that made Xiao Chen excited. It was the spiritual jade. As for the third box, it was completely empty. At the bottom of the box, there was only something that looked like ash. Xiao Chen took a closer look and understood. The box probably contained some spiritual herbs or something similar. However, it was way too old. Furthermore, they didn't pay much attention to preservation methods. If they were left in the box, they would have decomposed and evaporated after a long time. There should be some medicinal herbs in this box. They have all decomposed. Everyone, take a look and distribute the rest. Xiao Chen said. The spiritual jade should be given to Grandma Nanshan. Does anyone have any objections? Everyone shook their heads. Apart from being valuable, this thing wasn't very useful to them. Granny Nanshan didn't refuse. She asked Ling to find all the spirit jades in the treasure chest and put them away. As for the chest of gold and silver, Xiao Chen looked at it and said, Old Master Cheng, your main purpose for coming here is actually for these things, right? Yes. Cheng Tianxiu blushed a little and said, Qiao En's told me that I can make a fortune here. Alright, these jewels are yours. Xiao Chen said, as for Mo Xiangyin, I saw that you used a sword. Your family should be martial artists or martial masters who are proficient in using weapons, right? Yes, young hero Xiao, you've noticed. Mo Xiangyin nodded. Then, you can choose the weapons here. Song Hua Wu will bring the rest back to report. Xiao Chen said. Thank you, young hero Xiao. Mo Xiangyin was overjoyed. His purpose for coming here was to get a suitable weapon for his son and wife. He didn't expect to achieve his goals so easily. Everyone was satisfied with their items. However, Song Hua Wu suddenly looked at Xiao Chen and asked, You've divided everything. What do you want? That's right. Everyone looked at Xiao Chen and felt a little embarrassed. They had each gotten what they wanted, but Xiao Chen had nothing. This wasn't the case. They were greedy, but without Xiao Chen, they would have been dead long ago and wouldn't have been able to enter this place. If they all got something good, and Xiao Chen got nothing, they would feel guilty. Isn't there a cabinet here? Let me take a look at the things in the cabinet first. Xiao Chen said with a smile, I don't really need these. Xiao Chen wasn't short of money, and Grandma Nanshan was the one who got the spiritual jades for him. As for the weapons, Xiao Chen couldn't use them. He was a cultivator. Even if he wanted to use weapons, he would need to refine them himself. Ordinary weapons weren't of much use to him. Alright, young hero Xiao, open it and take a look. Grandma Nanshan said. Xiao Chen opened the cabinet door and saw a few books and boxes inside. Xiao Chen first picked up the books inside and flipped through them. 5 Poison Secrets. Xiao Chen saw a booklet called 5 Poison Secrets. Was this the book that Xia Qingyi wanted? Xiao Chen was a little surprised. He didn't expect there to be such a book here. After thinking about it, he didn't directly hand it over to Song Huawu. It was true that Xia Qingyi had sent him a message, but don't forget that Yang Tan was currently in charge of Songning City. Only Song Huawu and Xia Shibin had come to this ancient tomb. He was Xiao Chang. However, after thinking about it, if he didn't hand it over, Xia Qingyi would definitely be suspicious if he said that he didn't see the message because he wasn't familiar with this phone. How could Yang Tan not see the message? When the Supernatural Investigation Bureau issued missions, many of them were conveyed through this mobile phone short message. Moreover, Xia Qingyi had specially reminded Song Huawu that he had sent him a message so that Song Huawu could ask him. Song Huawu might have known that he would come, so she told him about it. However, it wasn't that easy for Xiao Chen to secretly obtain the 5 poison secrets. He decided to go back and make a copy first before giving it to Xia Qingyi. At least he could exchange it for some cultivation resources, right? If he couldn't use it, it would be good to give it to Song Huawu. Looking at her pitiful and bitter face, it was obvious that she couldn't get many cultivation resources in the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. The other 2 books surprised Xiao Chen. One of them was called 10,000 Poison Scripture, and the other was called Detoxification Scripture. Xiao Chen roughly flipped through them. One of them was about poisoning, and the other was about detoxification. They were 2 rare good books. Thinking of the 5 poison secrets, could the original owner of this ancient ruin be a master who was good at using poison? Xiao Chen put the 3 books directly into his arms and said, "I want these 3 books." When Xiao Chen flipped through them, the others didn't see them clearly either. They only saw something about poison written on the cover. It was probably a martial arts mental cultivation method or something like that. However, everyone had their own mental cultivation methods and martial arts techniques, so they didn't need anything else. They didn't ask much if Xiao Chen wanted them, and they were too embarrassed to ask. They all nodded to indicate that Xiao Chen didn't mind. Xiao Chen looked at the other things on the shelf. Apart from the 3 books, there were 4 small boxes. Xiao Chen opened one of them, and a fragrance immediately filled the air. There was a pill inside, but he didn't know what it was. Therefore, Xiao Chen handed it to Granny Nanshan and said, "Granny Nanshan, take a look and see what this is." Granny Nanshan took it and looked at it. However, she shook her head and said, "This pill is extremely fragrant and bright, but I don't know what it's used for. I saw that the 3 books you took earlier were all related to poison. This pill might be poisonous, or it could be used to cultivate those poison manuals. Ordinary people wouldn't dare to use it so easily. If it's poisonous, that would be terrible." Mo Xiangyin also came over to take a look, but he also hadn't seen it before. He shook his head and said, "I haven't seen it either, but we warriors can't take it easily if we don't recognize it. There might not be any reaction at the time, so it might be a slow-acting poison. Those are supplementary pills for cultivating the 5 poison secrets. You should keep them." The Elder Heaven Ancestor's words rang in Xiao Chen's ears. Xiao Chen was stunned. He didn't expect the Elder Heaven Ancestor to recognize this thing. However, since the Elder Heaven Ancestor recognized it, Xiao Chen said calmly, "In that case, I will take it back to study it. I'll take these things." As Xiao Chen spoke, he put away the 4 small boxes. Naturally, no one had any objections. In fact, they did not even have any intention of coveting them. Which martial artist would exchange their martial arts mental cultivation technique for no reason? It was the same for martial techniques. If one wanted to study a martial technique thoroughly, it would take years or even decades. It was fine for Xiao Chen to collect those things or give them to cultivators who had just started cultivating. However, experts like them would not be able to use them. Granny Nanshan was the same. In her Sex Sutra depository, there were countless martial techniques and cultivation techniques. However, there was a limit to one's manpower. It was impossible to cultivate all of them, so she hadn't taken a look. "I didn't expect there to be only these things." Qing Tianxiu was a little disappointed. He had thought that there would be something priceless. Although these gold and silver treasures were valuable, it would be good if they could be sold for tens of millions. If they were antiques, they could be sold for hundreds of millions. However, it was still a far cry from what he had imagined. As for the other things, they had all been divided up. He had no way to ask for them. He only felt a little regretful. It was the same for the others. Even though they had gotten what they wanted, they still felt that it was really. However, it seemed that this was the last hall. There were no other stone doors. Everyone could only go back the way they came. It was impossible to go any further. Fortunately, the last hall was not broken. Otherwise, everyone would have nothing left and could only return empty-handed. Elder Heaven Ancestor, should we go back the way we came? Xiao Chen asked. No, since Chen Xinyang dared to put you all to death, she definitely wouldn't go back the way she came. Her strength is limited. Breaking the formation of these stone doors was already her limit. If she were to go back the way she came, especially the formation at the entrance, she wouldn't be able to do it. Elder Heaven Ancestor said with some doubt, there must be another way out. In other words, this shouldn't be the end of the ruins. Then, but there's no way out? Xiao Chen asked curiously. If I'm not wrong, there should be a stone door in the last hall. It's just that this is a concealment array that hides the entrance of the stone door. We can't see it from a normal angle. Elder Sky said. Chapter 5:16. So, you can't feel it? Xiao Chen asked. If I was here, I should be able to feel it. Elder Sky said, but now, of course, I can't feel it. Or, I should be able to take over your body. But this is an extremely wasteful method of primordial spirit, soul, and divine sense. If I were to release my divine sense outside, I would fall asleep again very soon. All right. Xiao Chen said. Forget it, if Elder Heaven Ancestor fell asleep here, he would be at a loss. Is there any other way? It's not that there isn't. You let everyone hold a formation flag, and then in this hall, each person will be divided into an area, and then according to the method I said, throw the formation flag in that area. If the formation flag falls, then pick it up and throw it in another direction. When the formation flag disappears, that place is the location of the hidden formation. Elder Heaven Ancestor said. That works? Then I will try it. Xiao Chen listened and quickly said, you tell me the throwing method. Elder Heaven Ancestor and Xiao Chen explained the method. Xiao Chen said to everyone, if my guess is correct, this place should not be the end, this ancient ruin should still be able to go forward. Or we can directly go out, or go to another hall. Really? Ling looked at Xiao Chen with some surprise. This Xiao Chen is too amazing, right? Why does it seem like there is nothing he doesn't know? Others also looked at him in surprise. Xiao Chen's skin was thick, otherwise, if it was a thin-skinned person, they would have already been embarrassed to take Elder Heaven Ancestor's discovery as their own. That's right. Now, I'm going to tell you how to find the concealment formation. I'm going to give each of you a small flag. Then, follow my instructions. Each of you occupy an area in the hall and start throwing the small flags. If the small flags disappear for no reason, inform me immediately. Xiao Chen said to everyone. Okay, no problem. Everyone agreed after listening to him. A concealment array formation was easier said than done. It was possible to discover it in one spot, but in other locations, no matter how many array flags you threw, it would be impossible to discover its existence. Everyone began to search for the concealment array according to Xiao Chen's instructions. This was a job that required patience, but the thing that martial artists lacked the least was patience. Everyone began to search back and forth in their respective areas. 4 to 5 hours later, Song Hua Wu finally screamed. Everyone looked over and saw Song Hua Wu pointing to an empty space in front of her. She said happily, here, right here. Xiao Chen quickly ran over and looked in the direction that Song Hua Wu was pointing. There was nothing special there, but Song Hua Wu's array flag had disappeared. Xiao Chen squatted down and said, is it here? Yes, it's here. Song Hua Wu nodded. I did as you said. I threw the array flag here and disappeared. Okay. Xiao Chen reached out his hand and touched the ground. Then, he threw the array flags in his hand out one by one. The speed was very fast. Because he was a cultivator, his 6 senses were sharp, and he could control the direction and strength very well. Soon, a round thing that looked like a teleportation point appeared on the ground that emitted blue light. This made the people present couldn't help but be amazed. It was truly too miraculous. Xiao Chen seemed to have casually thrown out a few formation flags, and a teleportation point appeared on the ground. This is Although everyone had already guessed that it might be something similar to a teleportation point, they still asked. After all, no one had seen this thing before. Even if they had seen it, it was on TV. This is a teleportation array. It has been activated. It was originally hidden. Xiaochen said, "We may be teleported to other places when we enter the teleportation array, but I don't know exactly where we will be teleported to. It doesn't matter. I'll give it a try." Clayden immediately said eagerly. Everyone else had gotten something, but he didn't have anything that suited him. He casually took one of the remaining weapons that Mo Xiangyin had picked, and the rest went to Song Huawu. However, he still wanted to see if there were any other good things here. After all, there were too few things in the ruins. Most of them had probably been taken away by the people who had been here before. They had only made a soup base. Where are the others? Xiaochen asked. Naturally, we'll go take a look. Mo Xiangyi knew that if he didn't follow Xiaochen, he wouldn't even be able to get out. Therefore, even if it was a dragon's pool or a tiger's den, he still had to make a trip. Going back by himself would be equivalent to being trapped here until he died. Granny Nanshan looked at Xiaochen strangely and asked, "You're actually so proficient in array formations?" "It's all right." Xiaochen smiled. "Granny Nanshan, would you like to come and take a look?" "All right." Granny Nanshan nodded as she looked at Xiaochen. No one knew what she was thinking. Song Huawu and Xia Shibi naturally followed Xiaochen. Only Qing Tianxiu was a little hesitant, but he still made a decision. "Let's go." Xiaochen was the first to enter the teleportation array. The Elder Heaven Ancestor had said that this teleportation array was a two-way teleportation array. In other words, even if they failed, they could still return. It wasn't a big deal. Upon seeing Xiaochen enter, the others also followed. Song Huawu was second, Xia Shibin was third, and the rest followed. Xiaochen was the first to step out of the teleportation array. When he saw the scene before him, he couldn't help but be dumbfounded. The land beneath his feet was very serene. Birds were chirping and flowers were fragrant. Not far away, a large field that looked like a farm came into view. However, upon closer inspection, this wasn't a farm field, but a herb garden. It was similar to Yi Xiaoya's flower garden. As the others walked out one after another, they were also stunned by the scene before them. Where is this? Why was there such a beautiful scene of birds chirping and flowers blooming? It's already early winter. Why is it so warm here? Song Huawu asked curiously. Indeed, when they heard Song Huawu's words, the others finally reacted. This place was as warm as spring and filled with the warmth of nature. Are all the treasures in front of us? Clayden was a little excited. These were the things he wanted the most. Previously, the medicinal herbs that Xiaochen had given him had allowed him to reach the half-step martial master realm. However, he still hadn't broken through to become a martial master. If he had enough spiritual herbs, he would be able to make a breakthrough in one go. When the crowd arrived in front of the herb garden, Clayden rushed over impatiently. This is the golden silver lotus, this is the Ma-ku vine, this is the 1,000 jade Ganoderma fruit, and this is... The others also crowded around, their eyes filled with envy and greed. These were all medicinal herbs that were very useful to martialists, so everyone was very happy about them. However, even Clayden didn't stretch out his hand to pick them. Instead, he turned to Xiaochen and asked hesitantly, "Young hero Xiao, how should we split the herbs in this herb garden? I'll pick a few that I need first. You can split the rest among yourselves." Xiaochen said without hesitation. He wasn't greedy. There were many medicinal herbs here, so he couldn't just take them all by himself. Furthermore, he didn't need them all anyway. "All right, I agree." Clayden agreed without hesitation. "I have no objections either." Song Huawu and Xia Shibin chimed in. The others agreed as well. Xiaochen didn't stand on ceremony. He entered the herb garden and started picking. He didn't just pick everything, but he would take whatever the Elder Heaven Ancestor asked him to. "Take these stalks of exquisite heart-devouring grass. take these 2,000 crossing golden core fruits, and this, that. The elder heaven ancestor instructed, and Xiaochen took the herbs. However, what surprised everyone was that Xiaochen only picked herbs that they didn't recognize, or rather, they didn't know what they were for. Even Granny Nanshan couldn't understand Xiaochen's intentions. Many of the medicinal herbs he took weren't practical, so they didn't know what to do with them. As for the other medicinal ingredients, Xiaochen picked a few that were completely matured and had already lost their medicinal effects. If others saw them, they wouldn't think that Xiaochen was greedy, because the only use for these overripe medicinal ingredients was to use them as seeds. Not everyone could cultivate medicinal herbs. Most people didn't have the ability, not even Granny Nanshan. Therefore, no one fought with Xiaochen over them. Yi Xiaoya could cultivate medicinal herbs because of her talent. If everyone could cultivate medicinal herbs, there wouldn't be a shortage of medicinal herbs. Xiaochen's method of using vital energy to cultivate medicinal herbs was too unique and impossible to replicate. Alright, this is all I want. You can split the rest among yourselves. Xiaochen walked out and said, Clayden didn't get anything he wanted before. Let him take more. This isn't very appropriate. Young hero Xiao, why don't you take more? Clayden was a little embarrassed. I don't need that much. You guys go ahead. Xiaochen waved his hand. Even Granny Nanshan was green with envy when she saw so many spiritual herbs. Even she didn't expect Xiaochen to be so generous. Previously, she was still thinking that even if Xiaochen took all of these things, she would still support him. Xiaochen was her savior. Moreover, if she could rope Xiaochen in, he might be of great use when the time came. However, she didn't expect Xiaochen to be so generous and leave so many good things for everyone. Everyone was very touched. They felt that Xiaochen was much better than Chen Xinyang. Chen Xinyang had schemed to get rid of them and monopolize all the good things, while Xiaochen clearly had the opportunity to monopolize them, but he didn't do so. However, since Xiaochen was so determined, everyone entered the medicinal herb garden and began to harvest the medicinal herbs. However, perhaps because of Xiaochen, everyone was very modest. No one dared to go back on their promise. Everyone was afraid that Xiaochen wouldn't take them away. One had to know that Xiaochen was proficient in spell formations. If Chen Xinyang could easily frame them, then Xiaochen could probably do the same. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.